Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's stream where we are going to jump into the topic of frugality and how it can help men live more comfortably and more freely. I, of course, am joined by my good buddy Steve. You can find him on Instagram at Esteban the Bold. And if you need anything from me, find me at Jaron Scott on Instagram. Guys, if you're starting off just getting into the video, do me a favor. Like the channel, subscribe, ring the notification bell, enable all notifications. Leave any comments down below. I'll post a stream here in the top of the chat for any of those that want to come up live and discuss this topic with us. And be sure to share with your friends. Word of mouth is a fantastic way to spread the good news if you're getting value out of this content. That being said, let's jump on in. Steve, how you doing today? I know we're talking the pre-show. Been busy.
I am
You're
pooped today.
Yeah.
I am super pooped today. Yep. Got about 4 hours of sleep last night. Was grinding all day, and now we're here all of a sudden. I didn't realize it was near the end of the day.
Yeah, it's funny. The moment I wake up, I spring out of bed and I'm moving, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Wow, it's
dark
nearing later in the day," and I've got a few hours of streams and then other shit going on too. So yeah, you can string together quite a few hours that way and kind of get lost in it. So on today's topic of frugality, since I've known you, we've both been kind of frugal. I think a lot of times people confuse that and they use the word cheap, which I think is maybe an unfair term to use, or I used to be real worried about that too. But in terms of frugality, let's start off by defining it. How do you define frugality or just being frugal?
I mean, it certainly depends on the person and their level of income, number one. I mean, because I think that whatever level of income, it's generally living between 50 and 70% of your income. That's kind of like my goal, right? As far as being frugal, which, I mean, I'm not necessarily frugal all the time, but I try to balance it out into that number, that space.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good way to start in terms of percentage of income. I'd say I'd define it as living well below your means. So there is an income component to there too. I think a lot of guys they fall into the habit of, I got to be cheap all the time, but they don't take into consideration the percentage of income. And I talk about the opposite end of the argument, which is a lifestyle creep. And I fell into that in California where I'm like, all right, I'm making pretty good money now. And then you get the high rent apartment, and then you buy the Porsche, and you're taking exotic vacations or just going out, getting bottle service every night, which, I still do all that stuff every now and then. But I tried to, you say it all the time, catch up or keep up with the Joneses, and that's a good way to go broke really fast. So yeah, you can be bringing in a bunch of money at the end of the day, but if all of it's going out, if you're spending like 95% of your income, it's going out every month, then you're not really going to push the needle forward or start getting ahead. I've also taken it to the extreme polar opposite where I'm like, all right, I have almost no expenses or no fixed costs. Ergo, I don't have to work that hard. So I did the digital nomad thing for a bit. I think I made like $30,000 a year. That was during the midst of COVID too. So I knew the world was kind of in flux and it was a crazy place. I just didn't want to be locked down. So I knew that going into it. I did that intentionally, lived out of a duffel bag for a few years, and then realized, okay, well, if I only have like $1,500 a month, and that's pretty rich for me, total expenses every month, and I don't have to work that hard. I don't have to make that much. Had a lot of fun, learned a lot about myself, explored a lot of things, and that later ended up paying the bills. From those experiences, I was able to take really interesting jobs in not so safe countries and really develop myself personally and professionally. And then after that, you start getting the big offers. People are like, dude, you're the guy that did that thing. You're like, yep, that's me. And like, well, shit, how do we get you on board? What do you cost? I'm like, well, now I'm kind of expensive because I know I'm in there. So I've taken it to both extremes where I've ran up the income via the traditional corporate type strategy, which a lot of Americans do, or a lot of people just in general do. And then I've taken it the other way. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go completely off the grid, have little to no expenses, and then really just maximize fun. And now I'm kind of in the middle, striking a balance. I've successfully replaced my corporate income, which was, California tech salary. So I've managed to replace that and reduce the monthly expenses to the point where if I really need to go cheap, $1,500, that's always the number in my head. That's my minimalist budget. I usually land somewhere $2,800 to $3,000 a month total budget. And that's going out to the nicest restaurants in town. That's taking 1 or 2 trips a month. That's inviting girls into town or friends into town or whatever. So I was listening to a Caleb Jones podcast just about an hour ago in the gym, and he was saying that once you get to the point where you don't have to think about money, that's a nice place to be in terms of financial freedom, which I suppose we should define what that is too. And that, for me, that's literally what it is. I remember years ago, you visited me in Houston. I finally got to the point in my career where I'm like, I can take my girlfriend. I had a girlfriend at the time. I did an MLTR, multiple long-term relationship model now, but I had a girlfriend at the time. And I remember that first time taking her out, and I was driving, had a newish car, and life, things were starting to come together for me. And I was thinking, I don't have to look at my bank account. I don't have to worry about if this is going to impact me financially. That's a nice place to be in. And since then, I haven't looked back. I am really anal. I check my bank account every day. And if, like, for me, I like to have a big cushion to sit on just so I can maximize my freedom. Sometimes life happens at you, and it happens fast. I've been caught in those situations before. I've been caught in my pants down. For me, life happens in threes. So it's like one major negative life-changing event. I'm like, shit, here come two more. So I keep I'll just say it out loud. I like to have like $50,000 in cash, just sitting there at my disposal. I know it's probably not the best investment advice. Anything over that goes right into the market. It gets invested. I have various asset classes, but I invest a lot in my education, my health, my optimization, a lot of my personal development too, which a lot of guys don't do. But as we dive more into the topic, we can get on those issues. But when you live frugally and then you're able to simultaneously start to increase your income, it's that difference that you look at. So for me, again, for full transparency, the last 2 months I brought in, it's not great for me personally, but I've replaced my full-time corporate income, like around $10,000 a month. But my total expenses, if I don't leave the house and I work all the time, which is looking like these next few months are going to be that way, $1,500. That's really all I need. So with that
Right.
difference, it's $8,500. Well, you can put that to use. You can put that to work for you. And if you do that over the course of the year, I think last year I almost $100,000 that I was just able to play with, that I was just able to put out there and put to work for me. I'm not a savvy investor by any means. I know guys ask me all the time on the crypto topics or like investment advice. Don't take that shit from me. I've got a portfolio. I've got a high yield dividend portfolio, and I do like S&P 100. I do have a 401k too. Sometimes clients want me on the W2. I forego all the benefits and I just max out the 401k. So for me, and guys that have followed me for a while, you know this, I'm all about creating systems in my life, systems that I like. I'll do a 90-day focus, really fucking figure it out. And then once it's working, then it's done. I set it aside, or I lock it in internally, and then I go on to the next thing. And sometimes you might want to pull it back to light and revisit things, but usually it's like, okay, I know this system, I have it figured out to a point where X amount of effort put in will yield Y results. Then it's just, in this case, like, how free do I want to be? How much money do I want to make? How many YouTube live streams do I want to do a week? We had that conversation earlier. How many girls do I want to take out this week? Do I want girls to come over straight to the house? Once you have these systems or these infrastructures in place, then you can literally sit down like you're an architect of your own universe and plan your life out. So that's kind of my lengthy summation on the frugality topic, but I think we can
enjoying it.
Yeah, I think we can dive in a bit
Kept
further.
me
Yeah,
from having to talk.
That's it, folks. That's going to be a clip. That'll be a shorter video.
Yes.
Things off.
We're just going to talk in a series of clips, 10-minute clips. Yeah, I mean,
you've been fairly frugal too.
Truth is, like, we could afford a $2,000, $3,000 a month apartment. We just don't do it. We don't have multiple cars. We just want to run one car. I work from the house, so she drives a car around during the day, and then I just do whatever I need to do at night. Go to the gym and stuff. Grocery store, doesn't really matter, but it keeps everything relatively cheap. It's kind of inconvenient. Like, I wouldn't suggest that necessarily because there's shit I want to do at 2 p.m. But we do just keep one car around the house. Gym's down the road, so I mean, I can go either. I can pop on a bike or walk if I want to, something like that.
That's my gym model. I've been doing that for years.
Same thing. I mean, you can get them delivered. I know the grocery prices have increased, but for the food that I eat particularly, it really hasn't that much. We were talking about the egg crisis once, but as far as
is that still going on? I never would have thought I'd see shortages in the U.S. They don't. I guess
it is. I tend to buy like a lot of this stuff from local farmers, so their prices have always been a little bit higher than average. But I want to go ahead and just work with that anyways. I mean, we spend money, but we spend money where we feel like it's necessary. Food, water. Excuse me. We drink like Mountain Valley spring water. Shit's not cheap. It's like $10 a gallon, but you're made up of like 65% water or whatever that number is. So might as well get the best you can. Food, definitely grass-fed beef, pasture-raised eggs, stuff like that. Like we try to go that route, but we don't go out to eat a lot. We don't rent a billion movies, on on pay-per-view or whatever you call that, if that's even a thing anymore.
It's all on demand now, but yeah,
it's all on demand now.
We're dating ourselves. We're from the 90s.
I know,
90s
right?
Boys.
We don't go out and do $500 expensive things, but when we disappear for a weekend, we can, because we can afford it. We probably live off of, I mean, she probably lives off 80-90% of what she makes, but overall it's like 50, 60, 70%. So there's like 30 or 40% in there that's, I mean, pretty much just going wherever, and that's regardless of whether we could reduce it even more if we needed to. I mean, we could really, you could strap up, we could strap up hard and get real tight with stuff real fast if necessary. But I mean, you can only torture yourself so much as well. But I feel like there's got to be some version of torture for this to really work. Like for you to really think about your finances, because I mean, I hate to say it, mom and dad, but I didn't grow up with the best financial education from my parents. I didn't. They didn't. Well, they did.
I'm doing better than both of them.
Yeah.
Once I came up with my own method.
Not to talk shit, right? But like sorry. I mean, I kind of fell apart there in my 20s and had to figure it out. So now I'm kind of doing the reverse thing. Like we're gonna have $250,000 saved on accident, like just because I don't want to spend my money anymore. But yeah. So I think being frugal is like something people can, just a mentality they can have, rather than being cheap. Being cheap is being absolutely just stingy tight ass. Like completely.
I know people like that make a lot of money, but they're always like, "Oh, bro, I don't know, you're gonna have to get this, or I can't quite afford that." Or they'll come to town and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna crash with you for an extended amount of time." It's like, dude, like nice hotels are cheap as fuck down here, and I know they do well. I know they do way better than me, but it's always like every little penny, like. Hey, if I say something, we had this happen in Miami, top 10% meetup. Like we were just going round for drinks, and one of the younger guys, he never picked up a round. So I kind of pulled him aside, like, hey man, if you're in a position to where you can't swing it, like I get it, like it can get expensive, and like you're new to the group and you're a lot younger. Like
yeah,
next time it's your turn for a round, like here's my card, man, just throw it on it, because I write all my shit off anyways. And he's like, oh no, it's not that. I'm like, okay, well, if you like I said, the offer's out there. It's your turn to, once your turn to get the next round, go ahead and grab it. And he didn't do it, so I'm like, all right, well, like I don't know what the deal is. Like maybe that's cheap, or I know people in my family are like that too. My grandparents are very well off, and I remember when I was a kid, I'd be sitting on the couch and be like, well, I think I'm gonna invest in an 89-cent fly swatter, but it's 79 cents if I drive like 10 more miles across town. I'm like, dude, just go to the fucking gas station and pay $1.19. It's like right there. Like you don't have to make a $3 more trip out of
fucking
it.
Diesel just to go get a fly swatter of all things.
That's a different generation. We can touch on that topic too. Like my grandparents' generation, they grew up in the Depression type era, so that's totally understandable, and I get it. And then the U.S. in like the 50s, 60s, and our heyday, after we won the war, the big war, and then we were in the Cold War, and we won that war, although it's kind of feels like we're in it again, and now we're not winning it, but that's a whole different topic for a different day. But generationally, like it was even my dad's parents, like they drank a lot, and they died real young. They didn't take too well of care of themselves, but for them, like back in the day, my grandparents' generation, it's pretty much like, okay, you follow the model, you maybe go to college or learn a trade or do whatever, and you spend 30, 35 years, 40 years with the company, you retire with a pension, 401k, Roth IRA, any of those types of things. You buy your house, and then you pay it off, and that becomes your asset, and then it appreciates over decades and decades. And then usually, like my grandparents' generation, it was really they didn't have to try that hard. It's like you do these things and you will be a millionaire. And from our parents' generation, I get on the boomers a lot, but I think our parents' generation kind of screwed it up. It's like, all right, all the corporate things, but then they voted for decades, voted for all the increased taxes, then voted to offshore our jobs, and voted and just kind of screwed up that whole model that worked and that works for everyone pretty much at any point in time. Yeah, and then here I am, a millennial, come out of college. When I was in college, I literally thought I was going to make six figures out of college, because in the early 2000s we were doing really well economically in the U.S. And I knew guys when I was a freshman that were seniors that were graduating that year, and they were getting job offers right and left, making pretty good wages. And then, of course, 4 years later, when I'm coming through, it's when the global recession hit. No jobs at all. So I came out. Thank God I got a contract working for the defense industry. So government's always pretty cush because they pay you well and you don't really have to do anything. In fact, they tell you, you've been in government infrastructure too. They tell you like, hey man, we need to get our full budget renewed for next year. So just spend away and don't overwork yourself or don't work yourself out of a job. And yeah, so that didn't really work for me. As you can tell, I'm not quite wired that way. I like to go out and fucking get things for myself and get shit done. And so the government thing didn't work. But for our generation, after that, going into the private markets, like, God, like I got to work multiple gigs or multiple jobs. Or when I went to California, I remember justifying in my head that like, hey, rent's so high there that even if I find a good value, and I usually do, I had to justify in my head spending 50, 60% of my income on rent. And that was my total take home income. After taxes, which taxes in California, once you get in the higher federal tax brackets, and then you have California state taxes, in some areas you even have like local taxes, it got to the point where I was bringing home less than 50% of my paycheck. And then of that amount, so let's use 10,000 a month for an even number. So made 10,000 a month gross. Maybe I bring home like $5,000-6,000 a month. Half that goes to rent. So I think my rent was like 2,000, and it was 2,800. I think was my last rent there for nothing special. Like I always get nice locations, and we alluded to that. We'll get into why you pick nice locations where there's ease of accessibility to all the things you need, because you don't want to be wasting your time. Your time is an asset too. And I got to the point where I'm like, oh shit, like at the end of the day, I don't have a lot of money left over for the, hey man, do you want to go to a music festival? I got a plan. A few months out. I had a guy that commented. I went on the Rich Skipper's General Show the other day. He's like, yeah, Jaron's always doing fun stuff. Like he needs to get his shit together. I'm like, no, it's precisely why. Like I've never done a full inclusive resort in my life. I'm 35 now. I've never gone to EDC. I've always wanted to go. I've never done a lot of these things. But now when my expenses are minimal and my income is gradually increasing, I figured out the tax situation too. Another benefit for like the digital nomad minimalist, get the hell out of the US topic. Your first 120K, you don't get taxed on when you're out of the country for 30 days or more a year if you're an American citizen there. So all of these things I put together to get to the point like, shit, I'm free. I can do whatever I want to do. And Steve, you and I have talked extensively on this. I think you're in a similar situation, but to the point, like I'm free. I can do anything I want to do whenever I want to do it. Like, shit, what do I want to do? What does that look like? How do I stay motivated? Am I working too hard or not working enough? Like, oh my God. I think we probably answered one question. You mentioned like, we stay up to like midnight or 2 a.m. on calls or creative collaborator studios. Yeah. Doing these business calls. After this, I'll probably jump on Bentley's show, go over to Embrace Masculinity.
Is he doing his show tonight?
Yeah, he does them every Wednesday at, I believe,
I forgot. I thought it was Thursday for some reason.
Yeah, he does a show and a post show, so I'm usually on those. But I said since the minute I get up, I'm fucking moving. But my days are structured in a way where I enjoy doing everything I do. There's things you have to do that you'd rather not do, but even getting them done, it's like, all right, get those things done first, so you don't have to deal with them for the rest of the day. And then as the day progresses, there's more and more fun things I get to do. So after this, all right, I get to go on my buddy's stream. Then I get to go on a post call. And then I get to play guitar for an hour. And then I've got a chick coming over who's super cool and seems like a really cool person. It's a new one. I haven't met her, just FaceTime. Check out my online dating playlist on my channel if you guys want more of that. But in terms of structuring my day, when you have the freedom to do that, then you get to make your days pretty exciting. And work doesn't quite seem like work.
Or sometimes, I mean, and that's the reality, even frugal or not, right? Like, for example, today, working on a launch. This day sucks. Like, this is the worst part about the whole thing, right? Pre-revenue shit. Grind. But I mean, if you save your money up, if you are frugal and you have a little bit in your bank account and you can go a couple of weeks without making an income, which most people can't, then you can afford to do, a pre-revenue launch like this, or afford to invest in something that you believe in, or afford to, acquire a piece of technology to make your life a little bit easier. Like, being frugal is not about necessarily about right now building wealth. Like, you don't have to put this $225 that you have extra away just to be a millionaire in fucking 40 years. You can put that $225 away because you are waiting for this AI sales tool to come out in 6 months. It's going to basically automate a sales process for your company. Right. So that's kind of, we have different versions and different levels to frugality. We're not saving $18 on our grocery bill because we're concerned with putting that into a whatever, I don't even know what the index fund. Yeah, that was what it was, because we're going to put that extra $18 into the index fund and hope that one day it makes us an extra $600. Like this isn't that kind of conversation. I'm not even the type. I don't even know what a fucking index fund is necessarily. I just heard it a bunch, and I think my dad has one. Like,
I think at one point, I've got other goals for the next 90 days. I usually block my goals out and I call them goal sets for 90 days.
Yeah.
So after that, at some point, well, I'm going to travel. I'm going to go to Europe with my brother and I'm going to go camping with my family. So I'm going to take like 2 to 3 weeks off this summer, really, because I enjoy the relationships I have in my life. And, I can talk to people all day long via live stream, but Steve, I hope to fucking see you at some point this year too. So I'm investing more in my relationships, my network, my connections, my social influence too. And I like traveling. I've always liked traveling. We talked about that extensively
that's
yesterday.
the whole point of this
the wanderlust,
situation.
But I was thinking in the shower this morning that at some point I might make a 90-day focus to really learn the investment side of things, because I am very good at creating systematic structures in my life that are kind of self-automated once I get them down pat. So if I can take a 90-day concerted focus and really figure that out, once the revenue starts increasing. So I have 90-day like shorter term revenue goals that they're pretty aggressive. I am going to hit those. I always hit my goals. It's not a matter of, hey, am I going to hit them? It's a matter of when. Usually I do them sooner than I allot the time for. But at that point I was thinking, yeah, maybe I do really want to get into the investing thing to see if I can't figure out, because shit, I figured out
You haven't
Spanish
any
in a
money,
couple
like,
months.
you haven't had $1 million to invest. Like, then that's when investing gets interesting and fun, because then you're not just looking at it from a oh man, I wish or I hope one day that I can nut up and buy this $4 million apartment complex. You're like, oh shit, I have $1 million I need to get rid of quickly before I get taxed on it. And I'm okay, so I'm going to buy, I'm going to put 500K. I'm going to raise 500 and I'm going to put 500K into this deal so I can take 50% of the nut on it and distribute the other 50 to whoever my friends are. Basically, give me the other 500. That's why it's good to have rich friends. And then I'm going to take, some other money, the other 500, and invest it in art, because there's now a way you can invest in art at 20% or 15% or whatever art is. Did you know that Masterworks now you can invest in like private art pieces that go up in value and they paid like a stock?
That's actually something I'm looking into.
Yeah, me
Not
too.
even necessarily digital artists, and like, okay, you have like a share and ownership of this art piece that's in some musician or museum or private exhibit somewhere, but physical art in my house, I know that's a fantastic way to
Oh yeah, I didn't
store and
even think about
transport
that.
wealth.
I don't want art.
Yeah,
As you can tell, I don't want art.
I'm visual enough. I have no art on my walls. We were talking the pre-show. I think I'm going to put a studio together here in the next couple of weeks. Maybe do some IKEA cubes and go to like Tianguis flea market here in Mexico City. They're humongous, and buy some little trinkets or little whatever. And I'm really into vinyl. This isn't a music channel, but vinyl album art is beautiful. So you could easily put those up too, just based on kind of what I'm listening to or whatever mood I'm in. And eventually I'll do more music. Again, a benefit of freeing up your day or your time or just having control over it is you can structure your life in a way like, okay, I want to focus on this thing now. I mentioned it just a minute ago. Hey, at some point, maybe Q3 of this year, calendar quarter, because I know like companies, they all do them differently. But Q3 of this year, yeah, maybe I'll get into the investing thing, take a course, get some coaching, hire some people that really know what they're doing, figure out a structure for me that fits with my lifestyle. I'm kind of more passive, just develop the habit or engage that discipline muscle. Just like, okay, this amount of money, this percentage of money is going to broader investment category, and then just have those systems and structures set up in its place.
Interesting words you put together there for a second. It's courses. So there's an epidemic of courses these days. Epidemic of courses. I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily, but
I spend a lot of money on them.
Every single, well, and I'm just talking to normal regular people, right? Every single corner you go on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, there's a fucking course. There's a course somewhere, everywhere, all the time. It's nearly obscene, and I don't want to think anybody to think that's a negative thing that there's a bunch of courses out there. Because,
no, I'm actually working on one, guys. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, I am kind of too, more coaching than courses, but currently. But the reason why there are so many courses out there is because the reason why the demand is there is because if you want to do something, you need to learn how to do it. I'm not saying that every course is created equal. And if you don't go to Google and spend 100 hours looking shit up, that you're not going to find the exact same thing that's in that course. But the point of a course is to expedite the information to your face. You're paying $9.99, so you don't have to spend 100 hours. Instead, you can spend 8, and then the other 90 you can spend making money or applying whatever you learned. That's the point of courses. However, there are a shit fuck ton of courses out there. There is a metric ton of courses out there for all of these things to learn like skills and stuff. And if you're going to spend any money, find a reputable source for a course and buy their course. And I mean, reputable being you already know they're successful outside of selling you a freaking course. That's the key, is making sure the person you buy a course from is actually living that life. I've noticed that new people, they're getting into the course game way too early in their shit. Like, you've been doing this for a year or two or whatever, and people
going on like
know you're successful.
over
So
a year, yeah.
Yeah, so people.
For example, I won't do a course on investing, as I mentioned. That's something that I haven't really dived into yet. But things like how to learn Spanish quickly. Okay, I did that 20 years ago. I've showed a lot of guys how to do that. I used to have a company down here that reverse engineered that. We taught Mexican business executives how to learn accelerated English in 30 days or less. So that's something I can turn into a course. Or like the dating game, dude. I've been crushing on online dating for like 3 years now. Not that I was ever bad, but I'm so optimized now. Like, literally, I just get inbound messages. Had to check literally just before we started the show. Hey, we're going to see each other today. I don't even remember talking to her because, I follow a very systemized structure that just works, and then it weeds out all the disqualifies everyone that's not interested. And then as soon as they come through, you're like, all right, like this chick's already been qualified based on the structure I set up. So I can do a course on that. But yeah, I think you're right. A lot of guys come to it really early.
They want to go and make course money like that. They want to make that recurring revenue, and that's the wrong mission. You got to get great at what you're doing and then sell a course. I guess
it's hard for me too, because I'm looking at course topics, and these are things that I figured out years ago that have been a part of me for so long that I don't think about it anymore. So then you have to go through like, we'll get to some comments here in the chat in a second. There's a really good one here that we can tie into this, but I'll get to the point. Like, God, what was I doing at that age? How did I figure that out? I almost have to dig back into myself and then relearn it rapidly from scratch, so I can start putting it together and structure it for people.
Yeah, I just see a lot of negative connotation around courses, a lot of negative feedback around courses. And a lot of it's just because first off, the general public doesn't know shit in general. So there's that. But these people that are offering these courses are popping in, and they're popping in a $2,000 course for something that nobody even knows that they're successful for. Like, they don't have any sort of social proof or any sort of marketing. They're just like, oh, do this. Here's 5-step instruction. Here's my $2,000 course. And you're like, whoa, time out. Date me before you're trying to marry me, lady. Like,
yeah, right.
give me a $20 product first. Let's get to know each other, and I see that. But like, yeah, somebody like you can credibly go and build 3 or 4 courses on certain shit, sell it for whatever the hell you want. That's not what I'm talking about.
I've already got them queued up. I just got to record them, post them, put a funnel to them, market them. That'll happen in the next 90 days.
It's like 95% of people don't want to pay for their education. They don't want to pay for their education, and that's totally fine if you don't want to do that. Yes, there are scam courses out there, just like college is a fucking scam. Ask Jaron. He's unemployed and got a master's degree. Just saying.
All the money I make is from nothing I learned in college. It's really from nothing I learned in the corporate world too. It's really just a lot of undoing all of that stuff. Now, I had a unique experience because I did my undergrad abroad, and then for my master's program, I did that in the U.S. and I did a very good program where the professors were actually professionals in their field, and it was a lot of it was just practical type stuff. So that did help me develop skill sets rather than just being theoretical and academic. And I enjoyed the research component too. I'm published on like the gringo topics or living abroad topics because I had lived in Mexico before. So that does add a bit of credibility, but really in terms of everything I'm doing today, it's all shit I figured out on my own. It's all been self-education. I feel like, what's that saying? Don't let school get in the way of your education or something like that.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I felt for a while.
I never heard it, but that sounds like something that
sounds about right.
Somebody would say. Yeah,
maybe absolutely. I said it. I don't know. No, I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally true. I fucking sleptwalk through senior year of high school and somehow managed to get where I'm at. So, but I work way, way, way fucking harder at this point than I ever did or ever have, I think.
Well, you and I discussed this recently. I'm at the point where I don't feel like I'm working because, as I mentioned, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a place I wanted to be. 2 or 3 years ago, I set out to do it. I hired a business coach. I paid him $10,000. Like, pull apart the life of Jaron Scott, and then let's put it back together in the most optimal, efficient way possible to get me where I want to be. Exactly where I'm at now. This was a vision I had years ago, and I did
sure.
on the front end put the effort into it. As far as like, all right, here's tactfully how we need to approach this and how we need to set this up. So now I'm living it. I'm like, well, for the first time, I don't have a 9 to 5 job. And like, okay, 9 to 5, if you know me the way I used to work, 9 to 5 was like 9 to 9. And
Mm-hmm.
lived in
Yeah,
California in a beautiful place, but I'd be up before the sun came up and I'd come home after the sunset. I'm like, well, I live on the beach in San Diego and I never get to see the sunset. This kind of sucks. Why am
yeah,
I spending all this fucking money? But
yeah. That
now I'm
was
at
an
the point,
adjusting
like, I'm
spot
living the life that I visually structured for myself years ago, and the things I'm doing now will pay dividends, 2 or 3 years from now, a year from now, whenever that happens.
100%.
But it's like you feel almost guilty. Like, I get to live stream with my bros every day. I get to hang out with cool people. I get to live in a place with
It's
perfect
pretty dope,
weather.
ain't it?
It's a little smoggy. I get to go to the gym whenever I want. I have an awesome social circle. I date fantastic, beautiful, feminine women. And it's almost like I feel guilty. And I've had to catch myself saying this. Language is really powerful, guys. I'm like, oh, I'm not working that hard. I'm like, no, I am. If I were to objectively step outside of myself and map out what my day looks like on average, I'm moving from the point I get up to the point my head hits the
Dude,
pillow. But I'm doing
the
things that
point
I
is to make
enjoy.
it a fucking fluid motion. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. Like this, the was it rigidity? Is that a real word? I don't know if that's a real word, but the rigid side of this is like people have to get it. They force themselves out of bed. They force themselves into the car. They force a coffee on themselves. They go to work. They force themselves through the day. Then it's like taking your bra off at 5 p.m. when you get in your car and you're on your way home and you decide to drink a beer that you had in the cooler from the fucking Sunday before because it's still cold because you fucking hate your life. Spend an hour in traffic by 6:30 p.m. You're coming home and you're like, fuck, I have to eat. By the time you eat and go to bed, all that's forced. Like it's an unnatural process for human beings to go through. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
just fucking head scratching the whole time. You're not passionate about what you're doing. You don't give a fuck. Really.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to catch a check. Your boss is wondering why you're not as passionate as they are about their business, which is
Yeah. Why aren't
fucking
you passionate
absurd.
about your job? I'm like, dude, you're just paying me to do a job. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's
Like,
why.
I've hired people to help me with my stuff. I know that the quality of work is not going to be as good as when I do it because it's my shit. It's an extension of me. You kind of know that going into it. And then I do a lot of corporate consulting too. So usually I'll do so you'll hear me talk about I'm working on my workflows. I'll get the workflow down, and usually it's 10 steps or less that someone with like an IQ of 80 can do in their fucking sleep because I've taken care of all those things. I put the resources in front of them. I give them an in-depth training library, get on a half-hour call with them, kind of show them how to work the systems, where to find all the information, and then they're off to the races. They're good. And then you just have like very specific tasks for very specific skill sets.
Right. But yeah, that's what. But yeah, it's sleepwalking. We're just most people are just sleepwalking through their lives every day. So when you really think about it, like if your phone goes off, it's either a chick or somebody doing business with you or a buddy you want to hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a boss. It's not somebody telling you you need to go do something. It's, hey, bro, can we do this? Or hey, let's schedule this. Or hey, let's go here. Hey, I'm on my way over. Or hey, you want some dinner? Like those are the normal
Let's
messages
go.
you get. Yeah, right. Versus, hey, you didn't do this at work today. We need to have a talk when you get here tomorrow. Did I trigger you? Did I trigger something inside you? Because I've gotten those text messages too, and I did everything
Me
that I
personally,
ever
yeah.
needed to do.
Couple months ago, I was visiting San Diego, and I was at my buddy's, nice high rise place, and I was walking around and got a call. Hey, Jaron, where are we on this such and such project? I'm like, you've literally asked me that for the last 3 weeks, and you know exactly where we are. So everything with me is done. The bottleneck is on you. I've offered for assistance, but I'm in a
I remember
contracting
you
role. I'm
telling
not
me
a
about
full
this.
time W-2 employee. So you said based on the way the company's structured, I can't do that. Now, if you want to go ahead and change that, that's fine. We can be done with it tomorrow. Or if you want to keep playing stupid fucking games, I didn't say that out loud, but that's what you think in your head. But my
Mm-hmm.
buddy's like, dude, why are you still working for corporate clients? Like, I was so frustrated. Like, how? And I did ask my boss. Like, calling someone else boss is the weirdest thing to me, because
Yeah,
usually usually they're people kind of, and it's tough too, because I was already into the remote location dependent lifestyle. I was already into minimalism, already into frugality. So I know, okay, maybe my boss makes like 50K more than me a year. I'm at a pretty good salary level for what I do. Maybe my boss makes like 50, let's say 75, even 100K more a year, but I know she's not bringing home more at the end of the month than I am. So I'm like, so it's really weird. Like, okay, boss, whatever. And I was at the point, it's like, hey, how many times do we have to have this conversation? When are you going to get it? And then,
Yeah.
of course, oh, you get the, you get someone calling you like, hey, we need to talk about your attitude and your productivity. I was like, this company tracks everything I do. I am the most productive person on the team. Now, if you want me to log hours, that's fine, but I don't work that way. I work on a retainer, and then we have weekly talks, and we figure out what it is I need to build out for you, and then it's done, and then I train the team on how to do it. I'm on to the next thing. That's how my brain works. That's how I structure my deals with my corporate clients. This is how we're doing it. Now, if you want to change that, though, it's open for discussion. And yeah, dude, it did trigger something to me. I'm fucking venting right now, but
Yeah,
it was at that point, like in a month from now, I'm out of this contract, and I'm never gonna work in this
absolutely.
capacity again.
Yeah, and you know, even like I've been a business owner for 3 years, and I still have clients that treat me like I'm their employee.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I run a fucking business. Like you're not gonna call me and call me at 11 o'clock and at night and then tell me that I need to do something. You need to fuck off. Like you need to go to hell.
Oh, I had a
Sorry.
client of yours years ago. I won't name names. You know, I respect anonymity on these things. But built built a website for my. I know you know who I'm talking about.
I know
This guy
exactly.
turns out like, okay, well on the website, like put my wife on the page, and then all of a sudden he had like a new lover, and then he had like a son that ran the company, but then they had a falling out, and like he had so much drama in his life, and he was an alcoholic, so he couldn't pay me on time, or he'd call drunk at like 3 a.m, just spouting off about some bullshit. And I got to the point, I'm like, I'm not making enough money on this gig for it to be worth my time.
Absolutely not. That's
Had
the
to drop him.
freedom.
Obviously, I'm going to turn everything over to him. Like, hey, you still have like a turnkey operation. You know, you're not going to get to the next level without me, but you can stay where you're at as long as you want for really minimal input. On like time wise per monthly basis, because that's just how I structure systems in general. I'm a systems thinker naturally, and then he wouldn't pay me, and I'm like, okay, well I'll just hold all the IP. You can go ahead and pay me. I think I put it up for auction, like the entire package I built for him. And then finally, all of a sudden, the money came through. All of a sudden, he found a way to fucking make it happen. So I'm like, all right. And I haven't built websites in like a decade, because, you know, those are lower price points and they're not that fun. And you deal with clients like that. If you guys do need any digital marketing stuff, I do have a fulfillment agency that I work with quite closely. The CEO is very, very adept. He is very knowledgeable. He's been C-level for various of your FANG companies, or in some sort of like advisory position. The guy's super fucking sharp, knows how to do the fulfillment side of things. And I'm actually looking for affiliates or sales guys. Or if you have a business you want to get off the ground and need some digital marketing, hit me up Instagram at Jared Scott, and I'll give you any information on, you know, like if you want a sales position, affiliate position for other content creators, or if you need something to get your own business off the ground. And I do advise, again, full transparency. I advise for that firm. They give me a retainer, but we're thinking bigger picture in terms of, you know, once this channel starts to grow, or like his other stuff grows, we bring the right kinds of clients into the fold that see the bigger vision in terms of location independence and absolute freedom for men, then we will start having quite a bit of fun. So I'm in the initial phases of building out that affiliate network, as I'm, you know, trying to grow the channel and the influence and whatnot. So guys, if you're interested in any of that, you can
Do they do what my
hit me
company
up.
does?
I think they can do it, but I've recommended that for lower ticket type items, or or for things of that nature, because there's an entire list of services they can offer.
I read it.
Then
Yeah.
then to maybe find outside fulfillment partners and then just kick that over. So I'm looking at that, guys. If you have like a digital product or service you can offer too, and you'd like me to sell it for you, again, I'm not looking to be like a sales guy doing 200 phone calls a day, but as we expand influence, I want to build these networks. And that segues into this real quick. I'll pitch my private men's community. So that is the top 10% men's group, as an extension of Rich Cooper of Entrepreneurs in Cars, is top 1% group at a much more accessible price point. Guys, if you have the cash to pony up, I definitely recommend the top 1% group. I'm in there. I'm at the generals level. That's all based on how much you contribute to the group, how much you show up to live events and participate in discussions and all that stuff. There's a lot of work that's done in there, but it's a pretty hefty price point. It's $4,000 a year, I believe, at the time of posting for the top 1% group. If you have the scratch, definitely do it. I'd love to see you in there, and we will have some fun. We do a lot of meetups, and you will get to know me quite well. But if you're not there yet, we started doing actual top 10% meetups. We were in Miami a little more than a month ago to do that. We do Q&A sessions. We do collaborator studios. We do calls. Usually there's calls at least once a week that someone's doing in the group. And it's really, again, if you're at the starting point, you're like, hey, I don't know where to start. I need like-minded guys. I need cool people. I need someplace I can be honest, maybe respect the veil of anonymity if you're that point in your life, if you're going through some tough times. Wherever you're at, that's the top 10% group is where you want to be. It's myself and 4 other admins from Rich Cooper's General Circle in the top 1% group. $997 price point. That is a lifetime membership fee. You also get discounts on any coaching services or digital products for myself, Rich Cooper, Moff, Josh, or Bentley, or anyone else that's at the admin level in that group. So it's a great starting point. I was kind of wary starting it. We've launched it about a year ago, but I'm really pleased with the progress a lot of guys are making and the quality of conversation. We've gotten some real fucking killers in there lately too. So it's just going to get better. The more people that get in there, the better. And Steve and I were talking earlier about courses. Like if that's new to you, yeah, it is kind of a weird concept. I admittedly was on the fence when I started joining private groups, but a lot of the values in the network of the guys in those groups too. Yes, as an admin, you know, I have a responsibility of leading the direction of the group and providing some sort of structure and making sure that everything's kind of held together. But there's a lot of interaction between other members in the group. And then as the group grows, you're going to have access to more interesting people and expand your network. So definitely check that out. Again, top 10% group, $997 lifetime membership. Hit me up on Instagram at Jaron Scott for more information, or there will be a link to the payment page in the description. So looks like Steve pieced out for a minute. So I'm gonna clear out some of these comments, although there are some discussion things here. So I'll save those for when he comes back. William Sanders, Soviets are retroactively winning the Cold War right now. Yeah, that would be a really interesting topic to unpack, but I do believe that. I think rather than a lot of people think that, oh, we're at war, there have to be boots on the ground. Well, everything's all digital now. So if you can control the information that goes in people's heads, then you won. You don't have to fire any missiles or bullets or nukes or anything like that. So I'd say that, yeah, I think especially with things occurring recently between, you know, tensions between ourselves and what was the former Soviet Union, it feels almost like the 80s again. There's like a sense of nostalgia. And I think South Park did an episode on that last season too. Like Mr. Mackey, we're not in the 80s anymore, but yeah, it kind of feels that way.
That's funny.
North-South, I love cassettes and vintage tuners. I've been curious to try out cassettes. I know they used to get a bad rap back in the day in terms of bad sound quality, but I've seen some YouTube videos where they compare them that actually, if you set everything right, you can get some decent sound reproduction quality out of it. I like vinyl records, and then I did the old tuners too. I think I have like a Kenwood 8050 or 8500 sitting there with some nice speakers. When you get into the audiophile thing, it can get a bit expensive, but luckily it's a really cool community. So a lot of guys just trade and swap gear and stuff. But yeah, I've always been an audio nerd and an audio dork. I think I'm going to upgrade my audio setup here shortly too, because I also play music and I want to start recording some tracks because I've got some fun stuff I put together. Let's see here, Steve. Now that you're back, we can get on this one. So. Alejandro Chacon. Okay. Hello, brother. I'm in class right now, but advice for 21-year-olds. Anything is appreciated. 100%. Thanks. I've been 21 before. Yeah. What advice would you give to 21-year-old Steve?
Whatever you're going to do, go as hard as possible, as fast as possible. Like, get it done. Like, you have to, whatever you're doing, it doesn't even matter necessarily what you're doing, but when you're doing something, do it 1,000%. Fuck 100%. That's not enough. Like you have to be obsessed and ridiculous about it. And the reason why I say that is, at 21, I was a complete just basket case. I was all over the place. I wasn't committed to anything. I wasn't doing anything other than I was, had a job and shit, but I wasn't doing anything with complete and total commitment. And that's the hardest thing to do when you're young, because you don't really know what you want to do. But even if you go with that thing at 21, even if you go with that thing for 3 or 4 years and you go hard, you build the muscle of going hard at something. So at 25, when you find out, or 28, when you find out what the fuck you want to do, you will win, because you work harder than everybody else at what you want to do. And block everything else out. Those are my 2 things. At young shit, girls will be there in 10 years. Go get money while you have energy.
Oh, they're there a lot in 10 years. I thought when I was hitting 30, like, oh no, my dating life's over. I'm an old man now. No, dude, it becomes so
No.
much easier because at that point, like you're 21 now. By the time you hit 30, you've got almost a decade of experience under your belt, living in your body in reality as an adult male. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to fall flat on your face a few times. You're going to have some wins too and not know what to do with it. That also happened in my 20s where all of a sudden I'm making a shit ton of money and then you blow it all or you do something stupid. You get into business with the wrong people. Steve and I have both been there before. But
Holy
by the
fuck!
time you're 30,
That's my resume. You just pulled
yeah,
out of
but
thin
by the
air.
time you're 30, you kind of got it figured out. You have a solid sense of self. Like there's still maybe some areas you need to clear up when you get to that point.
Yeah, you're
But
not completely dialed to 30. Don't pretend like we know shit. Like, don't pretend like we know
uh
anything. We just know there's a few things we're probably not going to do because it hurt a lot. That's
the
it.
name of the show is Lost Boys for a reason. So yeah, Steve and I, we're just regular dudes trying to figure shit out. But
Yeah.
for example, I'll be 36 here in 2 weeks. God, I didn't even realize that. One of my girls is like, "Hey, pick the nicest restaurant you want to go to. I'll treat you." I'm like, "Ooh, that's nice." That in Mexico, the cultural thing is that the guy always pays, but every now and then my girls will treat me, and it's a nice. They call it like detalle in Spanish, like nice little detail. But yeah, 21-year-old you. Yeah, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, man. I think Steve's advice is good. Go at it hard and fast, and then the more you might not even know what direction you're necessarily going to, or you don't know necessarily where your destination is, but like at least start heading in the right direction. And a big thing for me, if I could do differently, I fell into ways of thinking. Again, I did the college thing. I was a really good student, fell into the corporate structure, raised my income really fast, got promoted really up through the ranks really fast. For guys that are in that situation, you want to do that, then, hit me up again on Instagram or in the comments. I can tell you how to do that. I've done that before. Another thing that I became an expert at really quickly, but that's not my life anymore. However, everyone's different, or maybe you're at the point you're like, hey, I can't just sell my shit and move abroad. I need some sort of skill set or whatever. Then maybe the corporate routes, something you might want to do. We
Something. Be
can
a
touch
solopreneur. Do something.
touch
But
on
just
those
develop a
topics.
fucking
Yeah,
skill. Yeah, just develop a skill between 21 and 25, and get to be a G at it, and then go charge $100 an hour to clients. Like, if I could give anybody
yep,
like front to back, the easiest thing to do, go become an expert at something. Be very tight with it. Get great at it, and then go charge for that skill. And don't go get a job. Go do whatever you want. Make sure you can do it on a computer, unless you're a hands-on guy. That's pretty much it.
yep.
I mean, that's as simple as I can make it.
So I'm going to pop his next comment up here. Speaking on that topic, I agree with college being a complete waste of time. However, I have a full ride on a management information systems degree. That's the only reason I am attending.
Then
I
do
don't
that.
cut.
Enjoy your 4-year vacation, bro.
Yeah, you know what? I was in a similar situation. I was ahead a couple of years in school, did really well on my SATs, had a near 4.0 GPA. There's always that one teacher that gives you like a B plus or an A minus, like you son of a bitch. So I always had like a 3.97 GPA or something crazy like that. But back when I was at it, it's like you take your SAT score, you take your GPA, there's a matrix, and then you look, okay, I can get into any school I want to. Then it was just applying for scholarships, and a lot of people don't apply for a lot of scholarships or grants. So I didn't get a full ride, but I was pretty close to it. And then Alejandro, I was going to mention again, this isn't for everyone, but I did this, and people that I've given this advice to, and they've done it. Like, dude, it just opened my entire fucking world. If you have a full ride, you're obviously smart, so you're probably ahead. I remember petitioning in college to take 26 credit hours per semester rather than 20 at the time. Like, well, 20 is the max, and most students would do like 12 to 15. I was doing 20, and that was a pretty easy course load for me. So I took up to 26, stacked my days like Tuesday, Thursday, just all classes, Wednesday, all my labs and like 3-hour long lectures. And then I had 4 days off to go explore the world and have fun. Homework was never really hard for me. For example, like we piece together, like we prepare for 3-hour conversations every single day. It takes like less than an hour to do. So I'm just kind of wired that way. But if you're wired in a similar way and you're like, hey, I'm kind of ahead or I can do whatever I want, look into possibly studying abroad. That option came up for me. I decided a lot of my peers like, oh, we're going to go to Spain, but I priced it out. I'm like, well, what you pay for one semester in Spain, I can study like pretty much my whole degree program in Mexico. So I went to Guadalajara, spent 2 years in school there. And then once I had to go up to the US, do another semester, graduate. And then I came back down to Guadalajara at one point, stayed there for almost another 2 years. And that was fantastic. I got to play baseball for them. I never thought I'd be a baseball player in college. I wasn't bad in high school, but I wasn't great either. But they're like, hey, come play for the team. I'm like, all right, cool. And
That sounds like fun.
our baseball season down here was in the fall. So I recruited other buddies, like guys that were actually good to come down and like some solid pitchers to come down, and like we just got to travel all of Mexico and Latin America for free on the university's dime.
Cool.
And then all my scholarships I got in the U.S. Well, my tuition for like one of the best universities in Mexico was like 10% of what I was paying in the U.S. And okay, I pay my tuition. All the rest goes to housing and traveling and having fun and creating new experiences for myself. So the reason I comment on that, because the other question, like, hey, what advice would you give a 21-year-old? This second question, it's kind of where I found myself. School is pretty much paid for. I think I had like 80% of it paid for from like scholarships and grants and whatever. And then I went abroad, so I just got cash in my pocket every semester, which was really nice. Probably should have invested at that point, but really those experiences were fundamental in shaping me into who I am today. And then I know it's trending like the minimalism thing, the location independence thing. Steve and I touched on the Passport Bros comments. I get guys all the time like, oh, you just went to Mexico to get chicks. Like, bro, I came down here like 20 years ago. Like, before Facebook, before smartphones, people didn't have cell phones down here. They had like the little shit cell phones with like
moved to Mexico 3 separate
the T9
times.
keyboard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, like this time around, it's like I just don't want to live in the U.S. anymore. It's a dying empire. Where do I go? Like I already know how to live in Mexico. I've done it, and I figured that out when I was like 19. So
yeah, it's a natural transition for you to jet set. I mean, and if something goes wrong, like that's kind of why staying in the same continent or staying in the same hemisphere, I guess, is a good plan, because then it's not a 14-hour ride home.
Yeah, that was a big thing too.
14, yeah, because if you run out of money and you're in Thailand, you're screwed. Like you're selling your body on the streets, buddy.
Yeah, like they can be longer flights. Like when I fly to New York, that's a 5.5, 6-hour flight. But Miami's 2 hours. Tijuana's 3 hours, 3.5 hours. You just walk across the border to San Diego. Texas is 2.5 hours, depending upon where you're going. So the places I travel to the most amount of frequency, they're within a couple hours. Like if I walk out of my house now, I could be in Miami for dinner, well, no, actually they're a couple hours ahead of the time zone, but you catch the gist. The only long one is my hometown doesn't have a direct flight from Mexico City because it's a very small town. So I do have to do a connection, and it's up in the Pacific Northwest. So, but usually if I catch a good flight, which I do, I pay for the best flights. I being frugal, I used to be really cheap and be like, all right, well, I'll do an 8-hour layover in Vegas just to save $100. Well, then I rack up a $300 fucking bar tab, or I go gamble or something, or I screw off my day. So the shortest flights possible, do direct. But even then, when I go to see my family, it's 6 hours to get there, and that's not too terribly bad. Although I do want to venture out eventually into South America, and then maybe somewhere like in the Balkans, like Eastern Europe, or maybe even Asia at some point. Asia's never really called my attention, but I figured might as well check it out at some point since I can.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty great. So Alexandro, if you're in a similar situation, just kind of like I laid out for you, definitely look into that. Go into your study abroad office and see what options are for you. All the cool kids, they go to like London or France or Spain or Italy or somewhere like that. You're going to spend a lot of money, but find an up and coming country, or find a really good school in maybe an emerging market economy like I did. I didn't realize the school I went to down here was a good school until now, living here as a matured, I use that in quotes, matured adult male. I talked to people like, dude, where the hell did you learn how to speak that way? Or, oh my God, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I went to La Autónoma de Guadalajara. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good school. Management information systems. If you're interested in Mexico, Tec de Monterrey is a really good one. They have a location in Monterrey, Mexico, Guadalajara, Mexico, and I believe here in Mexico City too. I think I met a girl from there the other day. So definitely look into that. And like Steve said, you're not that far away from home, and you can really stretch your dollar a long way and get some really cool experiences too.
It's a good entry level getting out if you want to go home. It's a 3-hour flight, or for most people, to get to most major metros in the United States, if in the event you had to go home. So it's a good place to go. Plus, I mean, Spanish is the second most spoken language in this hemisphere, I guess. If you want to practice learning a new language.
The U.S. is the second largest Spanish-speaking country on the face of the planet. There are more Spanish speakers in the United States than there are Spain. The only country that speaks more Spanish population-wise is Mexico than the U.S. And depends on where you go in the U.S. Southwestern border, you're going to get more Mexican Spanish. Miami, like more South American, Cuban Spanish. New York, like more Puerto Rican. But But these are topics I'd like to explore too. Like, okay, what does U.S. Spanish sound like? Because we have enough Spanish speakers to where like I notice if someone's from the U.S. speaking Spanish versus someone from like whatever city in Mexico, even to the point where when I go to Miami, people are like, oh, you talk like a Mexican. I'm like, what are you talking about? People down here compliment me.
That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, but we don't have to get into the cultural thing.
Hear
But
you
yeah,
talk like a Mexican.
yeah,
Never heard of that.
Latin America, they can be they can shit on each other quite a bit. All the other countries look down on each other, which it's really funny. But I consider myself a citizen of the world, or I screw people up because if I hear a word that's easier for me to say or a part of language, I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense if I use that grammatical tense or term in these situations. It doesn't matter where it's from. I'll just integrate that. I'm like, oh, in El Salvador, they speak like this in this particular area of the language, and I'll just like bring that into my lexicon. I like
didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I confuse people in Spanish. So, like, I know you're not native, but I don't know where the hell you're from. Like, what's your story? And like I say, for topics like on how to be less boring or how to like attract women, that intrigue factor. They're like, who are you? Where'd you get that? Okay, I want to sit down with this guy for drinks and get some stories out of him. So yeah, so Alexandro, yeah, you did mention you're in class, but if you're listening to this on playback, if you're hearing it live, definitely look into those opportunities. You find yourself in a similar situation I was in, and and then you'll want to do your research too to make sure everything you do abroad transfers back to the U.S. So I was very diligent about that. So of all the schools in Mexico I could have studied in, there's only two to where they had the degree equivalency in the U.S. In fact, the school I went to in Guadalajara is a very well-known medical school down here, and a lot of your doctors in the U.S. and Canada go through that system, and you wouldn't know any better. It's the same quality as U.S. education, so that's something you want to do too. You don't want to come back to the U.S. and have to take a bunch of classes over. I think I wasn't trying to get a Spanish degree when I came back to the U.S. Like, dude, you're only one class short of a Spanish degree if you want. Or I think I was like two classes short, like Greek mythology, and then I had to take a Spanish 101 class after having lived in Mexico for a few years, and that was very painful. Like, today we're going to learn the colors, and I'm using like very complex parts of the grammar. And the teacher, first day, the teacher's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Ask your husband. He's the dean of this faculty." So she pulled me out of class and put me on research projects with him instead.
That's pretty funny.
That's how I got through there. Yeah, she was actually one of those teachers. She gave me a C- on a paper that I submitted to some kind of competition here in Mexico, and they actually invited me down to like publish it and present it at another very good school here. So the teacher, I'm like, what's the deal? My C- paper, they want to publish it in your home country, Guadalupe. What the fuck's going on here? But you always get those teachers, and there's no way of avoiding it. So that's my spiel in academia. I used to fancy myself an academic. When I met Steve, I was just coming out of that structure, and was a very big part of who I was. But
that's why we're friends. I made him feel like a fucking moron.
Yeah, but the street knowledge. This one's relevant too. I wanted to go to law school at Gonzaga. I grew up in Tri-Cities, Washington. I actually got my master's degree from Gonzaga. It's a very expensive school, so no student debt, or I think I had a little bit of student debt coming out of undergrad. But Gonzaga, yeah, that definitely put me there. And I always say on this channel, we'll get into it. I don't carry any consumer debt or revolving debt. I still have some student debt, but I consolidated it for like 1.9% interest rate, and I make the minimum payments. And it's suspended now, but I still get ahead of it. And really, I'm just letting inflation take care of that debt. So me 10 years ago, for 21-year-olds listening, I like, if someone gave me that advice, like, that doesn't make sense. You got to pay off all your debt as fast as possible. I'm like, well, inflation's a lot higher than what they actually advertise. I've worked for one of the big four firms for the last few years. Internally, we all know this. It's considerably higher than they advertise. So yeah, if you can get yourself in a situation like, okay, I have like 1.9 interest rate on a fucking bunch of loans I consolidated for my graduate degree, mostly paid off, but I just, like I said, I just paid a minimum now, and I just let inflation take care of the rest of it. I didn't finish the comment. So went to law school at Gonzaga. Or wanted to go to law school at Gonzaga, but went to a lower tier one in Cali. It's a cool thing to tell the ladies I have a Juris Doctor, a JD, but it just sits on the wall. Yeah, a lot of lawyers find themselves in that situation. My brother is actually going to law school there nearby, and I think he'll kind of fall in the same thing. But he's in a unique position, and there's a comment that addresses this. We'll get into that. So he's a wounded veteran, so with like the GI Bill and all the benefits, and he got some kind of settlement or so, like whatever deal he worked out with the military. His education's taken care of. So he's kind of going through the thing where he's collecting degrees. He just wants to be the man in the world and gain a bunch of knowledge. And I definitely get that. But especially in his situation, whatever he got for like his military retirement, I told him, I'm like, hey man, like, you really don't have to make a lot of money to get to your financial goals. So like you can take lower paying jobs and learn things. You can go do degree programs. So that it was unfortunate the accident he incurred. It almost took his life, but now he's doing well because it allowed him that degree of flexibility that Steve and I were mentioning earlier in the show. Jaron, you said what you're doing now is from stuff you learned after college. What were things I should look for, or what kinds of things should I look for if I want to start working for myself? So, William, I'm not sure where you're at right now. Are you actually in college, or have you been in whatever career path or field or military or doing whatever you've been doing for a while? I think I need a couple more follow-up questions for that. If you want to get up here, then there's a link actually posted in the top of the chat. We can break that down. But things I learned after college, really, it wasn't what I learned, it's what I unlearned. I had to start digging into myself, get really introspective, and then start distancing myself from parts of myself that didn't work anymore, and then start actively discovering new elements of my personality or areas of my life to bring online. So for example, I got like more into the spiritual type topics. I got really into getting my body in shape. I got really into hormone optimization. I got really into locking my diet down. I got really into personal finance and minimizing my expenses and maximizing my income. Got really into building systems and structures and things in my life that they can take care of themselves, because I'm naturally hyperactive. You'll see me on the show every now and then when my hummingbird friend comes up. I'm like, oh, he's here. That's how I'm naturally wired. So kind of like same thing. I dress kind of minimalist too. Wear black V-necks every day. I do have a really nice wardrobe from when I go out, but most of the time, I'm at home and it's hot. I'm in Mexico City, high altitude, and getting a little closer to the equator. So I figured out what to unlearn and then how to simplify a bunch of areas in my life. And then again, with my energy level, I quantify my energy levels. Rich Cooper calls it, allocate the fucks you're going to give or manage the fucks you're going to give. Then things like that when I have more energy and my finances are taken care of, dating life's taken care of, fitness taken care of, diet's taken care of, like all of the things that hold a lot of guys back in life, I've taken care of all those things years ago. So now I can really focus my energy into new things. And again, I usually go on like 90-day stints where I'm like, I'm going to get really good at this really fast. I know it sounds like it's crazy. Like for example, I learned Spanish really quickly, but that was my concerted focus. That's where like 100% or near 100% of my surplus bandwidth went, because these other systems in my life are just kind of managing themselves. You do have to, I got to shower every day. I got to shit every day. You got to shave. You got to, figure out food at some point, but I do like one meal a day. I do intermittent fasting. So these are systems and structures I built into my life on top of unlearning harmful habits or ways of thinking that just didn't serve me, focusing on what I really wanted and allowing my true self to shine. And then a lot of times these details is you just get moving. Like Steve had a fantastic point. Just get moving. Go balls to the wall in one direction. Learn to shed dead weight as fast as you can, and then bring assets on board, and then allow that momentum to carry you. The further you go down the path, more avenues open up for you, and then those details become a lot clearer. When I was doing the keyword research for this, we were talking about the topic of like decluttering, and we can do a whole separate stream on that. But decluttering is really just getting rid of all the bullshit in your life, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, psychological, spiritual. If you're into that stuff, I think that's a good starting point for yourself. Steve, do you have anything to add to that, or agree, disagree?
It all depends on him. It's a pretty personalized question, really. I mean, you have to really know somebody to really give them advice on where they should start or what kind of things they should look for. I've been in business for myself I've been at least 1099 for going on 10 years now. And, I'm kind of the redneck of the two of us. And so I went into construction sales, continued to do construction sales for like 6 years. And that was basically independent. I worked for, 6 or 7 different companies in that process. But it all depends on your skill set. It all depends on what you want to do. I mean, if you can give us a few more details on what you actually want to do or what you're looking at, I can probably point you in the right direction of something, right? Just getting you started, because a lot of it's just it's a skill stack. Alex Hormozy talks about this a lot, where you build one skill, you can charge a certain amount of money, then you put another skill on top of it, you can charge, a little bit more money. Then you get into management of, both of those skills. That's usually how that works. Like in sales management, I did that for a little bit. You can charge a little bit more money. And I mean, things just accumulate over time. So, I mean, it's entirely dependent on you. what you want to do, what your space is in. I always recommend, or I will always recommend from here on out, to go, if you want to, be like a project manager, for example, go get a certification in project management. It'll open a few like $80,000-$90,000 doors if you have some experience in an industry, maybe even 110,000. Or analytics if you're a data guy. Go get a Google Analytics certification. They start at $90K for something like that. And you can get these certifications for like $50, $100. If you're willing to grind them out. It takes a couple weeks to get them done. I'd say like a 6-month course. Like I did the project management course. I have one more course left, but when I stopped, it had taken me 5 days to get through 5 courses, and it was supposed to be somewhere between 3 and 6 months. So, but I have a lot of free. At the time, I had a lot of free time. I had a kind of a low week for the business, so I just spent all of my time doing that and on YouTube, learning about project management, particularly. So just give us a better idea of what you're looking for, and then we can kind of point you in the right direction. You're muted.
Yeah, well, if you're still here, feel free to pop on up. I'm dicking with my mic stand over here. This fucking cheap desk doesn't seem like it's going to support the weight. Yeah, well, I'll just have to make do as is for now. But yeah, well, if you want to pop up here, we can definitely dive more into your specific situation there. But those, Steve and I's advice, those should be some more kind of general, broader areas in which you can get started. Camera action, nice. Oh, that's a creative name. I like your little thumbnail, your emoticon, your avatar there. Gonna hit you up for my e-course platform. Yeah, definitely do it. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, but again, kind of like what Steve and I are doing, we're leveraging the power of the internet, and I want to work on creating the network effect. Again, I've pitched my group before. That's a good way to get started. If you guys don't know how to do that, I won't pitch it again. I'll just put the banner down below. So if you're interested in that, hit me up. But yeah, if you have an e-course platform, I definitely don't mind adding you to the network. I think my original site where I got started, that started off as a blog, I might redo that and just turn that into a marketplace. And then a lot of these streams, guys, take advantage of the digital tools too. Like AI can do some cool stuff for you. Take the transcript from this, write it into a blog article, set it up for SEO optimization. These are old school marketing methods, but that's how I started my career. And there's different people. People consume media in different ways. There's podcast people, there's YouTube live video people, there's TikTok, kind of shorter format type people, and there are still people that when they want to research something, they do blogs. I did that too. I'll watch YouTube videos for entertainment, but when I'm researching something, I sit down, I have a dedicated reading session. I still go to blogs. So I'm thinking at some point, probably here sooner than later, turn that into a marketplace. So if you have products that you want to list or start selling, once I get some SEO value behind it, maybe if it's working, I'll throw some money behind it in terms of paid. Yeah, definitely hit me up. I'd be interested in talking more about that. Steve, this one might be more up your alley. I liked the military at 21. They'd throw you in jail if you quit or didn't show up. So I personally did the college route, but I always say like that 18 to like 21-year-old age, do something. So if it's not college, military is a fantastic option. If you're not learning like a trade or a vocation, or now if you're doing some kind of tech program, if you want to learn programming, like Steve said, project management certification or programs, 18 to 21, like be doing something, and that'll set the foundation for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean you have to do it forever, but it gives you a launching off point. So
yeah,
Steve, I'll let you comment on that. You're in the military.
Yeah, because I didn't get a 4-year degree. I went to 2 college classes, I think, it was 2, got a A's in both. And I was so bored, and I thought, I can't do this another, whatever it was, 56 times. Like, took a lot of time. I didn't see myself working for anybody, and that's really all a degree is good for the most part. This argument is ongoing between me and my father about this. But as far as specific certifications to get yourself a skill set in specific things, I do think that gathering up a couple of certificates is probably a good idea. Like I said, Coursera is a good plan. Again, it all depends on you and what you're trying to do, because you're not gonna go online, get a $50 or $100 course or get a certification and become an expert in project management. And it's not gonna help you necessarily in sales or something like that. That's kind of the caveat. So we've got to know a little bit more. We got to know a little bit more about you before we can determine whether or not, or what route to go. Because there's a million ways to go. You can go any way you want. I mean, even if it's getting a job in the space that you want to work in just to learn the business and then starting your own business in that way. I have dozens of friends who did that. You know, they got into roofing sales. They started understanding roofing sales, and they just watched what the business owner was doing. And then 2 years later, they have $5 million companies. It's a pretty normal thing to do. I would say. And if you want to work for yourself, also you go and learn. Well, while you're working for somebody and earning an income, then you can go and learn about something else. You know, you can build something else on the side. That's another thing you can do. I mean, like I said, it's all dependent on you.
And yeah, guys, as I mentioned, if you have any specific questions as far as like your situation, then definitely pinned in the YouTube chat there. This is simulcast to a couple different platforms. Whatever chat you're in, that the comments pinned there, so you can click on that, come backstage, we'll bring you up on the show, and we can dive into these details a bit further. See, Spartan Existence, how you doing, sir? Had a great time in Jalapa, Veracruz. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while, but I've met a couple people from there, and everyone from Jalapa has been pretty cool. And there's actually some pretty hot chicks there too. I think at one point, was it like September, October of last year, where I'd set like my Tinder passport or whatever it is in that location, because it's close enough to Mexico City where at some point within the next 3 months, these chicks are going to come to Mexico City for whatever reason. So just catch them there. But yeah, everyone I've met from Jalapa has been super cool. So I'll probably have to get out there and check it out here soon. We always said way in San Diego. Yeah, that's a pretty common one here. Girls use it sometimes too, like the way girls in California use dude or bro. So I have to train that out of their speech. Or I was like, don't be fucking calling me way. I'm not a castrated goddamn goat, which is what that word means, or it's a castrated male animal. Yeah. Find a problem in society and offer a monetizable solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's absolutely the
sums
whole
it up.
premise of business. I mean, you find an inefficiency, flip a process, whatever you have to do. If that's something that you're interested in doing, I mean, that's what I'm doing. That's what I mentioned earlier in the stream. I found an inefficiency in a business, and now I'm attacking it as hard as I possibly can. So that's a very good piece of advice. I mean, it sounds very general, but it's like if you're in a business, if you're an expert in like electrical, look around, like open your eyes a bit, and just see where somebody's messing up. There's always a product to create. There's always a process to make more efficient. There's always something to do better than the next guy. That's competition right there. That's why competition is what it is.
And if you don't know where to start, so Steve mentioned, like, if you're an expert in something, you're like, hey, I want to work for myself, but I don't know how to run a business, or I don't know if it's sustainable. You can always, and again, this is advice I probably wouldn't have given myself 10 years ago, but now that I've been kind of at the level where you're structuring large organizations for large corporate clients, I've done that again, as I mentioned, for the last few years for one of the big four firms. Sales is a good one too. It's like, all right, I'm a master electrician, or I'm an expert in this programming platform or application, or I know this thing really well. We'll start looking around and find a company. And if you have the subject matter, or if you're a subject matter expert or a SME, then it's going to help you a lot. Like, you can learn the sales skills. That's something you can learn pretty quickly. And you really just learn it kind of by doing it. And
You learn
kind of like the dating
eating.
topic. Yeah. Once you figure out your blueprint, you're like, all right, I have a successful conversion. How do we streamline this process? How do we remove steps from the sales process? But you already know like the ins and outs of the industry. Well, one, you'll already have a network. You should already have a potential book of business if you've been getting out in your industry and been active in it. So, and young guys too. I think, Steve, you started off doing sales. You started off door knocking for the longest time, and you learn your industry pretty quick that way. And
I
you
learned
also
my
built
industry
quite a bit of
extremely fast.
resilience.
Yeah, I mean, door knocking it appears much more scary. It's the bark more than the bite. It's not as bad as people make it. People aren't gonna. I mean, dude, I don't know how many.
You're already face to face, because I work in digital marketing. So the top of the
Yeah,
funnel, you gotta do a lot of steps before you get them face to face.
yeah,
Face to face, you're already further down the sales cycle. Like, as long
yeah,
as they like
exactly.
you, they're gonna buy from you.
Yeah, and the type of sales that I did was more of a need than anything. So I was kind of smart in that regard. But I mean, as far as like getting doors slammed in your face or hung up on the phone like that, it wasn't a very common thing. I mean, I got told to get the fuck off somebody's porch, and I mean, literally, I can count them on my fingers and toes. And I knocked 10,000 plus doors in my career. So I mean, it's a matter of whether you're willing to. They always say in the industry of door knocking, that's actually a really good point. If I was going to tell somebody to go and get into something that requires no experience or whatever, I would figure a construction trade probably wouldn't kill a guy. So a roofing salesman, dude, roofing salesmen make great money, 150K, 100K, and you work 4 or 5 hours a day on door knocking. The client part is kind of annoying. The customer service part is a little bit early on, but you get used to it. It's just you just get into the flow of the process. But a new one is solar. Solar is huge, and there's guys out there making $500,000 a year as door knockers. I mean, they're absolutely, it's absurd the amount of money they're making in these trades. So I mean, if you're willing to kind of swallow your pride a bit and call yourself a door knocker for a while, you can make a lot of money really fast. I know a guy right now who sells roofing and solar, makes 800. I mean, dude's got Porsches at the house. He's got a 5,000 square foot house. He literally goes and leaves his whatever it is. I think it's like an $800,000 house. Goes and knocks doors in the neighborhood next to his because they had a hurricane or something last year. So he goes and knocks doors in the neighborhood next to his and then drives his Porsche home. It's a wackiest thing. Like, you don't have to have a degree or even a high level of training to be a successful person. You just have to, it's just a grind. It's just a literal grind every day.
Yeah. Just know something really, really well, become an expert in it. I always say, kind of like for a content strategy, I didn't do that successfully with my channel because I'm interested in all sorts of different topics. But usually, what you want to do is you want to get super uber niche and then dominate that category and then start expanding adjacently. So do that with your skill sets too. If there's something you know really, really well, or you're really passionate about something and you can figure out how to make a living out of it and provide value to people, then I mean, you're pretty much already there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I sent out a tweet the other day, actually, where I basically said, I know, a lawn care guy, I know a copywriter. I basically listed off like 10 different completely opposing businesses and said, I know somebody in every single one of those spaces that's making 6 figures. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know somebody who's doing the work. I know a guy who washes roofs at $500 a pop. He makes 6 figures. I mean, he does a lot. I mean, does a lot of work. He grinds his ass off, but he makes $150,000 a year net. He's tired, but he does it. It's very possible, especially these days. I mean, social media made it so easy to market your stuff. If you're a halfway decent copywriter and an okay business person and a great executioner, you can crush it. I mean, you can walk all over people. So
yeah, and guys, definitely don't rule out some of more blue collar like trades type jobs. Jake says right here, the bar is low for trades businesses. Show up, tell them what they get for their money, and don't fuck up. And
that's literally it. That's literally it. Like almost 100%.
Or for example, I grew up on a farm, and I got really good at it. I got good at managing the harvest contracts, and especially after I'd lived in Mexico for a bit, I'd go home and I worked a couple of those contracts in the summers and in my 20s and did really well. And I knew I didn't want to go into agriculture because I saw like my grandpa and my uncles and stuff. And it's tough work. Your body starts breaking down pretty early. But my brother got into agriculture right out of school, and he's made a career out of it. And he's doing really well. He consults for McDonald's and Wendy's and some of these big brands to explore production capacity for produce in emerging markets. So he gets into Asia all the time. He has meetings in Singapore all the time, and yeah, okay, he has a degree and he did the master's degree and he got in early at the corporation and has been promoted very quickly through the ranks. But don't rule out any of these things or certain categories like, oh, I don't want to be a plumber because it's an unattractive gig. Well, a lot of those plumbers make 6 figures and they set their own schedule. Guess what?
It's not even close.
When your toilet's spewing shit all over the floor, I'm going to pay whatever plumber's available that time. Or I remember years ago, I locked myself, my dumbass, I locked myself out of my condo in San Diego, like as I was pulling a chick upstairs. So I called the 24-hour locksmith. I think he charged me a couple $100 or something, but I wanted to get into the damn house, for obvious reasons. And, at that point, right when the bars close and I'm in the middle of a pole and I'm standing in the hallway and this chick's like, hey, what's going on? I'll pay the guy who's closest, who's up, and whatever he's charging me. Yeah. And I paid him, and I got in. I had a good night, and I don't lock myself out anymore.
Right. It's true though. I mean, the barrier to entry in the trades is very low, but there's even less hustlers in it. And I mean, there's people that are sitting around with a lot less money than they could be making, waiting for the phone to ring, and that's what they're doing. I mean, they're just waiting for the phone to ring, and that's why in the trades, we can get off the door knocking after this, but like, it's such a powerful technique. Like, people, you wouldn't think, like, you would think people want me off the porch, like they don't even want me here. You're right. There is a lot of people that don't really want you there, but if you're a lawn care for lawn care, perfect example. If somebody's got foot long grass or some shit in their yard, and you walk up and knock on the door and say, "Hey, you got anybody taking care of this?" And they say, "How much you charge?" You tell them, "Oh, this time I'll do it for 100 because it's going to take me 3 hours to do. But like for maintenance, I'll do it for $35 a week." How many clients do you need to make $400 or $500 a day? 10, 12, something like that. I mean, if you really think about it, that's a lot of money, right? That's
Yeah.
$150,000 a year mowing lawns.
And you set your own schedule. And
And you set your own schedule.
I knew guys growing up, or even guys in my early 20s that did that. I'm like, bro, you're like 21 still mowing lawns. And now, like you said, they're driving the Porsches and they're going to like these really cool
Yeah,
trips and they're bringing in multiple millions of dollars a year because they learned how to do it well. And then they train someone else. And then they just slowly scaled over a longer period of
absolutely.
time. And all of a sudden they wake up one day. I've had a couple buddies that done that to me. They're like, bro, I'm a millionaire now. Like, I'm like, oh, all right, cool. When did that happen?
Yeah.
Just stick to it and figure out a way to make it scalable and add massive value in the sense that charge whatever you want, but obviously there's a limit what the market's going to pay for whatever, and that's where like marketing and kind of sales comes in too. But if the market's willing to pay for it, then shit, go for it. And by adding massive value, that literally means that I use the term perceived value. So let's say you charge $500 for a product, but the person feels like they're getting $2,500 worth of value out of it. Then
You'll
there
sell
you
that
go.
product out so fucking
You're
fast.
going to do well. Yep.
You're going to do extremely well. Yeah.
All righty. So let's see. Got more comments coming in. Women turn their nose at high paying jobs that lack status. Yeah, a lot of times that does happen.
That's true.
Although I knew a guy when I worked for the defense contractor, I knew a guy, blue collar guy, and I think he had good standing in the union and he was at like some high level or whatever. And he made a shit ton of money. He made more than most of the management at the corporate level made. If you guys know like any defense stuff. So I was working on a project and a lot of these defense contractors, they'll create like LLCs, limited liability corporations. So like we had a handful of big players involved, and then they created like a kind of like an operational company to execute that contract for that site on that manage a bunch of different projects. So we had like good union relations too. But a lot of these union guys made way more money than the corporate management level type people, and even like your C-level type people. And he ended up getting himself like a nice busty blonde cute secretary, like 20 years as junior, and did very well for himself. And I remember me coming right out of college. I'll admit, a little arrogant, like, oh, I've got my degrees and this high academic pedigree. I deserve all this money. Well, no, not so much, motherfucker. You haven't added any value yet. And I saw a guy like this. I'm like, this guy works like the plumbers and pipe fitters union, and he's bringing in more, like as much, if not more, than the CEO. So
yeah, he's been making 80 grand since you showed up, like, or since you've been in college. Started at 50, ended up at 80, and now he's a team lead, and now he's got 100 grand in his retirement and whatever you want to call that, and he's killing it. I know a ton of dudes in the trades just doing like what you're talking about, union stuff. They're making 55, 60, 70 bucks an hour. Prevailing wage, even more than that in some cases. And that's a lot of money. I mean, that's $200,000 a year for a lot of these guys. I mean, you have to be on a higher level to do that, and you have to be 6, 7, 8 years of experience. But blue collar trades is where it's at. I mean, if you really want to add value immediately and learn and trade as you go and make money as you go, rather than necessarily going to college, unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, then you kind of got to do that shit.
Mm-hmm. I remember for a while, for quite a few years, I worked in fintech in Southern California, and every now and then we get offers that came in like, hey, we want to sell like this commercial financing project, or we want to, and they get industry specifics like, oh, we want to target hospitality and tourism, or, oh, we want like hair salons and barbershops, or, oh, we want medical professionals. And every now and then clients would come on like, hey, we want to get listed on your platform. We want to sell a financial service for the agriculture industry. So every now and then, me as like the lead marketer, you come up with your offer, you do all your digital marketing stuff, you start at the top of the funnel, you bring it down, and then eventually I'd get into the sales enablement side. Like, okay, I'm going to go out in the field with the sales guys and see what marketing needs to do to support them. And I remember you'd get like these Southern California kids, the kids that the $35,000 millionaires was what we used to call them, driving like the 20-year-old BMW and spend a lot of money in clothes on stuff. It's a lot about status and image in certain parts of the country or parts of the world for that matter. we'd go out to places like rural Arizona or like middle of nowhere, Imperial Valley, California, and they'd be like, and they'd have the attitude like, oh, these farmers with their fucking trucks or these tractors. I'm like, dude, that truck is worth like 3 times more than your BMW,
Oh,
guaranteed. Or like
100% of the
that
time.
someone left in the comment, I'll put up that tractor right there. Like, dude, you can sell financing on that thing. You're gonna get a nice little commission.
They
At the end of the
start
day.
new tractors on the small side start at like $100,000 on the small side, and we're like not even commercial farmers, like fruit and vegetable freaking farmers that are picking their own shit. If they're buying a new tractor, well, they're spending, you can buy like a Kubota, whatever, for 30, 40, 50 grand, but we're talking about big stuff. Tractors go all the way up to 450K. Combines go all the way up to 650K, and that doesn't include any upgrades, really.
Yeah, Jake said tractors and combines are pushing $1 million per machine. Go sell those. Farmers plant hundreds of thousands of dollars in seed every year. Go sell that. So, yeah, guys, anything you can think of. I've always liked
100%.
agriculture too because it's something that's not going away. Everyone needs to eat. Like that is a recession-proof market. Like it does have its up and downs, and the government does some goofy shit there every now and then, but humans are not going to stop eating anytime soon. So that would be like relatively a safer industry to get into.
Yeah, it is. It's actually surprisingly, again, it's not a status thing. Financial, like fintech, you're talking about that stuff too. Like people always need money. People are always going to be, there's always going to be agriculture. There's always going to be automobiles, shit like that. Like get into stuff that people need rather than
my electrician has a 1-month wait list at all times. Yep. I mean, unless you're like Amish or Mennonite or you go live on combine? Oh, the word escaped me.
I don't know what the word is.
Like a cult or like a compound. Yeah, I go live in like some cult compound somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you go really, really minimalist. Then yeah, you're gonna need an electrician. I don't ever spend any extended period of my time of my life without electricity. So yeah, if something gets fucked up with the lights, guess what? Electrician's getting called, and we're gonna take care of it right now. So I'm gonna clear out some more of these comments. Camera action, already doing it for my niche, expert in the field, and I'm leveraging my knowledge now, making e-courses and do all the copyright work with the assistance of Chat GPT-4. I'm now starting to do that too. Yeah, definitely hit me up. I wouldn't mind kind of talking about how you structure that or what the workflows look like, and then if there's like any cross promotion or selling opportunities, I'd definitely be interested in that. Let's see. Pressure washing, siding, and cleaning windows. If you sell well, you can pocket $1,000 a day. Yeah, that's absolutely true. $1,000 a day, especially for you younger guys listening, that's not unattainable.
Through door knocking, by the way, if you go door knock these people and they need their house pressure washed, they'll pay you $500 to do it, or $300 to do it, or whatever. And you do that enough, you're going to get a whole neighborhood. You're going to get multiple neighborhoods of people. They're going to call you once every 6 months, and you're going to have $40,000 of recurring revenue in 2 places. I mean, you have to drive all over town to go get it.
Find real estate agents, house flippers, people like that. Be like, hey man,
that's perfect too. Yeah,
doing an open house, you're doing a showing, you're looking to do a listing, and then go beautify the fucking place.
Yeah, Jake, if you want to jump up here and talk about this, we can totally do that, for sure.
Yeah, Jake, I've seen on other shows. Yeah, you can definitely come up. But yeah, I mean, you can get really creative with these things. Again, as someone mentioned earlier, identify need in the market. So they're like pressure washing thing. Like, all right, I've got buddies that like do the house flipping thing, and if I were to come at them with an offer, like, hey, I've got this kid in Las Vegas, and he'll beautify, or whatever you want to set up your marketing offer, which there are techniques for that. You want to make it sellable.
Do like a pre-sale process where they go and pressure wash the house and clean up the yard.
Pressure wash, do the lawn, make it make everything pristine.
That's always needed. Everybody wants to be a fucking YouTuber. Like everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Everybody wants to sell a course. I know, right? Everybody wants to do all that stuff, but like, dude, we did all that shit. Like I'm doing all that shit. I mean, maybe not pressure washing specifically, but find a need and fill it. That's how I've had a business for the last 3 years. Like
I started off with all sorts of weird jobs. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so obviously at age 7 is the age you start working, which
no shit.
Trapping gophers and planting stakes and moving ladders and shit like that, and then you can start operating heavy machinery pretty quickly once you don't fuck up the menial tasks. And then I had a paper route. Here's one too a lot of guys forget about, and I forget about this: officiating sports. That is such
they always make money doing that.
They always need them, dude. I was making like $50 an hour for like tournament games or playoff games when I was 12. I remember getting like $700 weekly paychecks during like All-Star season when I was doing like the younger kids games. And then as I got older, I did that from the age 12 to 19. when I got to the age where I could start doing high school games and high school playoff games, like, dude, you could pocket a few $100 in an afternoon, and I liked baseball, so I had a good time doing it too.
Yeah, I did. I
I
did a
think
lot of
my
that
sister
too.
did volleyball, same thing. Like she was really good, or like my brothers officiated too. They were like all state athletes. So who's not going to hire an all state athlete to come officiate a high school football game? Like that's easy. It's easy money, and it's usually, especially in youth sports, they usually schedule youth sports events around like the parents' typical working schedule. So even if you do have a 9 to 5 job, they can usually work around you for that. You know, a lot of the games are at night or on the weekends, but do a pair of double headers on the weekend and shit, you can stack a few $100 in your pocket. And this was like late 1990s, like early 2000s money for me.
Yeah, when I was in Japan, actually, they had an adult softball league that actually traveled from Japan to Thailand and Australia and once a couple other countries, doesn't really matter, Malaysia and shit. And it was like military based, and they were paying $50 a game, and the games lasted like an hour and 25 minutes apiece. And I would officiate like 12 games in a weekend.
I'd literally tell the coach, just like the 8-year-olds, like, listen, like I know you think your son's gonna be like the next Cy Young Award winner, but we got to start somewhere. The arm speed's not there, the accuracy's not there. I don't want to sit here all day and watch 8-year-old kids walk around the bases in this windy, sleety, shitty weather. So I'm going to widen up the strike zone. We want to get them swinging the bat. Now, if a good pitcher does come on the mound, and you set the expectation with the coaches and the parents, like there are some kids that develop a little earlier. Like a good pitcher comes on the mound, like, hey, I'm doing a wider strike zone for this kid on the other team, but this pitcher, like, I don't want to hold his development back. He's clearly a little more advanced. So I'm going to dial in the strike zone a bit and, get the kid swinging the bat, get him some good reps too. And then you just kind of set those expectations, but I like those games moving along too. Like get the kid swinging the bat. It's like an hour, 20 hour, 30 minutes.
A baseball game that moves along. Everybody appreciates
yes,
that.
The MLB,
especially the parents. They love that shit.
Hey Jake, I saw you backstage. We can bring you on up right now. We can get you up here. And there's a couple of comments you might be able to help us address too. So if you pop back up here, I'll bring you right up. We can get a little tangential at times.
Well, we're just talking about easy ways to make money. So
yeah. So Jake Minson, I run my own electrical business. I'm happy to answer questions if you've got them. So yeah, if he pops backstage, I'll bring him right back up.
It seems to be a pretty popular topic.
Yeah, crypto runner. You want an ELF business though. Power washing is not ELF. So ELF is, and you put it right here, easy, lucrative,
lucrative, and fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So example, you mentioned the YouTube.
I like pressure washing. I like pressure washing. I would go do that shit all day, make a G a day. Are you kidding me? And it keep you in shape too, because you got to run around with that fucking wand that's trying to knock you over all the time.
Like you mentioned the YouTube channel. I know, especially like the youngest generation. I believe when they poll like the Gen Z type kids, it's all like most of them want to be YouTube stars. And like I never wanted to be a YouTube star. I worked on the radio in high school, and I really enjoyed doing that. So that's kind of what kicked off my whole marketing career. So now I'm like, all right, I got some skill sets and see what I can't do, and put an offer together. But the YouTube thing, for me, I see it more of a top of the funnel type activity. Get yourself out there, add some value, and then as people get closer to you or more in the fold or in the fray, then that's where you can start selling like higher ticket items. And it's a process. I'm getting to the point, like I said, I'm bringing in like $10,000 a month, which a year into YouTube, I replaced my corporate salary. Now that I don't have the tax thing to worry about, you factor in what I would be paying in taxes if I were back in the US, and like I'm actually doing pretty well. So here's Jake. Jake, how are you doing, sir? Do we like this view? Yeah, we can do it for TikTok Reels.
Yeah, why not?
Jake, can you hear us, see us? Yeah, it sounds like we got you. Yeah, might be some technical issues.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we have William backstage. William, do you have a camera by any chance, or do you prefer to go anon?
As long as I was actually on here, not the last show.
The Fat to Fit, right?
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
So I still haven't gotten my camera in. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
I just figured out how to use my iPhone 14 Pro S, whatever the fucking highest.
Yeah, and everybody is here,
which costs you $1,700 if you don't sign up for a plan, because I live in Mexico and I'm not going to be locked to a specific cell phone carrier. But like, yeah, the camera on this thing's pretty good, so I'll try this out for a bit.
Yeah, everybody who's here, pop over and subscribe to the Lost Boys. This is eventually going to be a live stream that goes over to that channel. Point, yeah. So if you're here and you're enjoying the stuff, just go over there and subscribe and. I guess because we're running a multicast right now, so it kind of helps us out as far as that's concerned as well. We appreciate it.
Where is that link at?
I will find it right now and pop it in the chat. It's a newer channel, so it's not going to come up in the search results. But yeah, we're kind of like when Rich Cooper broke the Unplugged Alpha brand away from his Entrepreneurs and Cars channel, he did the simulcast for a few months. So I'll do the same thing until we, get the subscriber base up
We'll get you
on the
back,
Lost
Jake.
Boys. But yeah, like we have like 6 subscribers on the Lost Boys now. So I'm not going to do a live stream because we'll have no participation. And,
no shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would suck. So what's up, William?
So I left a comment earlier about the about kind of what my situation was. Let me see if I can find it. I can't remember what I actually said.
Doing college stuff or learning things after college.
So I'm 26. I've been out of college a few years. I had a career in journalism that I quickly learned could not make you money. Is a disturbing trend. Well, yeah, except I actually worked at the same place that he started at, which
really
is
cool,
kind of hilarious. But he basically I'm working in.
I'm gonna bring Jake up here too, just so you can jump in naturally as the conversation goes, and I'll grab you.
Let's do it.
I basically am I'm working in finance now, as I'm kind of working the compliance side, so I'm not in the sales anymore. I used to be in the sales, but I don't know what direction to go at this point. Is really what it comes to.
Compliance sounds super boring.
It can be cool because you're essentially making sure that the SEC isn't just come in and wreck your world, right? But
totally.
But yeah, it can be boring at times for sure. Essentially I've always wanted. I started out kind of in the advisory side, and I've had some drive to get. I don't know where to develop the skills, if that makes sense, because I kind of wasted a lot of time in college. Essentially, all I did in college was play video games. So
yeah, I mean it's a 4-year vacation for most guys.
Yeah, it was a 4-year vacation for me, except I didn't set myself up at all, and now I'm like, I'm not doing bad per se, but I'm not. I'd like the freedom to be able to work where I want, when you want. Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you trying to stay in the same field of work, William?
Yeah, that was my next question.
I would be open to. Well, not really. I don't see myself staying in the same field. I do work well with people and data. I like working kind of where those two, I guess, areas of interest intersect.
Sure.
One idea, like I've got a mentor that has this. It's a nutrition coaching business. And he's kind of the one that showed me about all the things that he's doing to for his clients to help them lose weight. Gave me a lot of free advice, so I kind of feel bad. I kind of felt bad taking his advice without paying him, because he just spilled his guts super easy. But
can you do that with compliance? Can you do like a fractional chief compliance officer type offer where because I did that with a corporate consulting. I was like, all right, I'll do like a fractional like marketing lead or chief marketing officer, and then bill them out for, I think I billed out for like $500 an hour, minimum 5 hours a month. And then they just pay me on retainer. And then really what they pay for is your accessibility and your insight and your knowledge. And then I set rules like, hey, if you send me a message, I'll get back to you in 48 hours. If you need a last minute meeting, then I'll be within 72 hours, I'll be able to pop on a call or whatever. And I just structured it that way. And really just needed a handful of clients. For the last few years, I've been doing that to, make any sort of reasonable income.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, because I'm not very deep into this career field at this point. I've only really been doing what I'm doing now really about 6 months, but I've been in the general field for about a year and a half.
Of journalism is what you're talking about?
No, of finance.
Oh, finance.
Compliance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Before that, I was
to dive further into the niche. Like if I can give a couple of suggestions, find a good mentor in that, but also just seek the hell out of challenges. Like the most growth I ever made in my career came from my worst damn days. Like where everything's just going sideways. That's when you learn the most. And then that's when you become the most competent rather than trying to take the easy way through. Like, just like they say, ComC never made a competent sailor. It's true for any line of work too. So you don't learn the ins and outs and stuff taking the easy way through everything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a good piece of advice.
I do. Part of the issue is that the industry is so dang regulated, and that kind of told, like, because you have to have an office that you work from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with compliance, like they've got these things called OSJs, and then you've got
I was in fintech for a
yeah.
while. I worked intimately with our compliance officers, yes,
Yeah.
before we marketed new offers or new funds.
Exactly. So essentially, you've got to be in a OSJ, and if I want to work from, like, I don't know, Mexico City, for example, I can't
It's
do
right there.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Well, that's easy example. So I don't know. I think I just need to get good at something, if that makes sense. And I don't know where I can find something that I can be passionate about and get that drive going. Maybe I just need to try like 5 billion things and see what sticks.
I mean, if I was looking for something that I was passionate about, which is really hard because I like everything.
That is tough.
It is.
We all smiled, yeah.
Yeah,
guys wired like us. We all kind of do that.
At the end of the day, it's like for me, I just found something that I could tolerate doing 8 hours a day and just did it. That's kind of as far as I can go with it. As far as advice like that, it's like you have to kind of just find something that you can tolerate. I'd say you can tolerate. It sounds so negative, but the reality is we don't like 99% of things we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the 1% of things you do, just like sit down, no distractions, no TV, no nothing, with a list, and write down 15 things you like to do. Then go on the internet and Google them and see where they go. Because there's a lot of different. There's so many rabbit holes. Like there's so many rabbit holes you can go down. It's not even fun. There's 1,000,001 ways you can make money, and personally, I'm exploring 4 or 5 different industries in 4 or 5 different sub niches of those industries, and that's just from sitting around watching YouTube videos about people who do them. And if I can
find someone who's doing that something that you like doing or you can envision yourself doing, get close to that person. Again, we always say, like, sign up for the courses, the group memberships, whatever. It doesn't have to be mine. If there's some specific niche area, you're like, hey, you know what? I like the way that guy structures his life, and I can see myself living similar. You're never going to be exactly like anyone you see on the internet, to be honest. And then get closer to them. And what is it that Rich says in his entrepreneurs course? It's like R&D doesn't mean for research and development. It means rip off and duplicate. So find a model that's already kind of been tested and figure that out. See if that works for yourself. So here soon, I'm gonna try get my hand involved in the course model. I don't have that big of a following yet, so I probably won't do the high ticket course. But I need some lower ticket offers to start getting people in the fold and start showing them, like, hey, I can add value aside from just 3-hour live streams or telling these weird anecdotes and trying to bring it back to the main point. Like, I am very structured in my thinking, and these are problems that I used to have that I no longer have. I should be able to share that with people, but realize that not all of them are worth different things. So I'm going to start doing like courses, more premium content at various price points for various problems. But for that, to get that idea, like when I was still in California working in fintech, like I was just focused on that one job I had. Like, how do I get ahead in this job? And, maybe I'll get a raise this year. Oh, we don't have budget. Oh, maybe I'll get a raise this year. And then you realize you have to switch jobs every few years. And then I just got tired of that. I was like, shit, I just want to help guys solve problems, like especially really deeply rooted problems that I had before. And not only do I not have them, but I'm just fucking crushing it in those areas of my life. Like, okay, well, there's a way we should do this, but I didn't know what that looked like. How do you figure that out? So when I do research too, I see something someone did and it worked for them. I was like, well, I could do that. I could figure that out. I could reverse engineer that and put my own unique flavor on it and present it to the market. And whatever it is that you want to do, like Steve said, like start getting into that research phase and seeing what's out there.
Curiosity, man.
Just to know what's even possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're
once you have
if you're shopping for a new career too, just start networking with people like a son of a bitch and have all kinds of conversations. You know, someone in the computer space, ask them all kinds of questions. They might be like, "Man, it sucks. Don't bother with it," and then it'll enlighten you and at least tell you not to go down that path too, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just ask all kinds of questions to all kinds of people, start all kinds of conversations. That's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you if you're trying to figure out what the heck you want to get into. Like the other guy said too, if you find something that gives you good money and you can stand doing it for 8 hours a day, that's a good place to start too, because then you can at least start getting into something.
Yeah. I just like my issue with my current the way I currently have my work set up is, just how rigid it is. So
right.
That's kind of the area I'd like to improve, because if crap hits the fan, I don't want to necessarily be in a place where I want to be able to get out before, right?
Sure. I mean, if you're
If
looking
there's a
for
problem.
I mean, it's a. I'm going to say this, and you guys might agree or might not, but I think it's kind of an unhealthy strategy. Number one,
I always
mean,
burn the ship, so I can't look back.
can you
That might not
swim?
be the best strategy for anyone either. Like the YouTube channel, like I'm going to use my real name and talk about setting up like inbound lead generation funnels for chicks. You know, I'm not gonna get hired by a lot of companies that would have been knocking down my door years ago, and I kind of knew that. But it kind of forces you, yeah, like Steve said, sink or swim. Like shit, I
Yeah,
gotta
well, I
figure it
mean,
out.
I would say if I never plan on going back, which I don't really have. I kind of rip the rearview mirror out of most cars, and metaphorically. But when I chose to do what I did, I just there's there's downsides to everything. You're going to see downside in every single thing that you do, no matter what. You're always going to see something that needs an exit strategy, and then you're not going to be focused, and then it's going to keep you at level 2 or level 3 if you're even there. Versus going all in, becoming the best at it, then you don't need an exit strategy because somebody's going to come to you and offer you more money than most people make because you're not a fuck up. That's also part of it too. It's like I was in a pretty low barrier to entry industry like roofing. I mean, you can be pretty much anybody and get into that industry, but removing alcohol, working twice as much and twice as hard as everybody else, starting your own company,
Reducing expenses, because the
reducing
topic is
expenses
frugality.
and frugality. Back to the topic.
We'll wrap it up, guys. You know how we do it. 360
Yeah,
dynamic view.
we'll get
bring
to
it
the
home.
360,
Yeah,
but yeah,
we can
I
go
mean,
long.
I could have had an exit strategy day 2 in that business just because of the people that I got to know and learn about early on, and that's not talking shit about them. Some of them are still my friends, but you see negative things anywhere you go. I mean, especially if you're looking for them. So maybe it's partially that's ingrained in your brain to look for the problem, like why I shouldn't be here rather than why I should. Because what I learned after 7 years or 8 years in a business is there's a lot of really good guys doing really good shit. There's a lot of really successful guys doing really successful things, and there's an Illuminati level of the business, and your goal is to get into that group. Start rubbing shoulders with guys who are doing 100 million, 50 million a year, because there are those, and those guys are like God-fearing Christian guys who have families and they're not out drinking every night. They're not doing drugs. They don't hire salespeople that fuck people over, because those are all pretty prevalent things in that business. And that could have,
the industry is
I was
littered
looking,
with that.
yeah,
Any
I mean,
industry,
right. And I could have looked for, like I said, an extra strategy day 2 instead of just enduring what I did. And I went through periods where I even embraced some of it, right? And it's just a matter of you kind of got to get through it if you want to be in compliance. If you want to be in compliance and you like the work, then figure out how to do that work and stay in that business. If you don't, then get out. Like you don't need an exit strategy. You just need to decide one way or another. And once you
Get off
do,
the pot.
yeah, it's like you can be playing the game and you could still not want to be there, right? That's a real thing. We do shit we don't want to do all the time, even in business. Even shit we like, we don't want to do 80% of it because it's just tedious. It's boring.
Yep.
It's not
Throw
fun.
on
It's not glamorous.
a podcast, throw on a long live stream like these, like these types of streams, I always think it's the type of content I consume. We're like, all right, I have like a 4-hour creative work block. I want to find a topic and listen to guys talk about it for 3 hours in the background as I'm like balls deep in this work. That's usually what I do, just to kind of help get me through it. Because there's a lot of stuff you have to do with any business that you'd rather not be doing, but it just needs to be done. And I always take the mindset, the shit that I want to do least is the stuff I do first. So that way I get it out of the way, and then I'm like, oh, now I get to do fun stuff. Now I get to do
then you're
stuff
looking
I look
forward to your
forward
day.
to doing. Yeah, exactly.
So maybe do you not like working for somebody else, or what? Like what is it that gives you the inclination that you need an exit strategy?
Yeah, I don't like working for other people.
Okay, so you just narrowed 95% of whatever job or whatever you're looking for. You just narrowed it down to I'm either going to be a solo or entrepreneur, one or the other. And then there's a whole other set of problems that come with that.
Or like I said earlier, high ticket sales. If you don't know where to start.
Yeah, high ticket sales is another good one.
Money
for sure.
If you're bringing dollars in the door, guess what? You get to manage your own day.
Yeah, that's you get to manage your own day, but you've got to focus on that. That's something that these guys who start their own businesses don't talk about. There are weeks where you make no fucking money. There are weeks, there are months where you don't make any money. Jake, am I right or wrong?
Oh God, there are weeks I lose money, man.
I still have that pit in my stomach. Like, what if I never get another sale again? And then 3 days later in my sleep, like 4 come in. I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
the anxiety of being a business owner, like people don't talk about that shit. They're like, Bugattis and big houses and shit, dude. That's a level that, I mean, just even like, dude, getting to $1 million, that hurts. Like it is actually physically fucking painful. Nobody talks about that. It actually hurts. It hurts just as much as working for somebody else. It's just a different kind of pain.
That's why not everyone does it.
Well, and that's why 90% of businesses fail in 5 years or less because they're exhausted. It's like having a new kid every single fucking day. Every single day you wake up and you have to figure out how to get to the next level. That's not for everybody.
Yeah, and do the bare minimum at least so it doesn't die.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's like sometimes you don't even know what that bare minimum is. Because you're out there, like Jake, he's probably out there doing jobs every day, just trying to figure it out.
There's no map out there for what the hell you're doing, and anyone that could answer the questions doesn't want to because they went through it and they want you to figure it out for yourself too. Right?
Yeah, I mean it's a brutal fucking world, like this, especially this one, and it's being romanticized as if being your own boss is awesome. No, it's not awesome. It's not awesome 98% of the time. The 2% you see is the highlight reel 100%.
That's why I don't use terms to describe myself like business owner or entrepreneur or whatever. I'm just a dude on the internet trying to figure out life like everyone else. Because I'm at the phase now where it's like, okay, like am I a real business owner? But I have successfully managed to replace my former tech industry, fintech income, California income with what it is I'm doing now. But there's different levels to this stuff. So I think I've heard guys say, like in Rich's entrepreneur group, like, dude, if you're not doing like $1 million a year in sales, like, are you really an entrepreneur? And I also don't want to, like, a lot of guys will put that title out there, like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, and they pat themselves on the back. And I'm like, hey, dude, let's go on this trip. Or like, hey, you want to sign up for this conference with me? Or I see you're in town. Like, oh no, dude, I don't have any money. I'm like, all right, take that entrepreneur badge off then, because at least in my head, that means that you've achieved some level of success. And a big thing a lot of guys do is they'll create a business really just to self-employ themselves. You're like, okay, well, you're not a business owner. You're just an independent worker. So I'm kind of in that middle stage where, like, I'm not really a business owner, but I am self-employed. So,
that's actually a really good point, because half of the time you like overemploy yourself, right? Like what you were just talking about, and it's extremely difficult and it's extremely scary to hire somebody to do the job that you were doing before that got you where you are. That is one of the harder, for me. Dude, my estimating company, I don't want anybody else to write my estimates because I know exactly what the product's supposed to look like. But I have to look at it from a scalability standpoint.
You want to work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah, and that's a very difficult point to get to. People are just giving them and when you first start, you're going to have a job. It's not that you're not going to have a job.
You get to do everything. Like if
you get to be the secretary and the accounts receivables.
Let's say you start a restaurant. Guess what? You're scrubbing toilets now. Yes, you're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. You may be doing well, but you're scrubbing toilets.
Yeah, offer that fucking title on Instagram, bro.
You're cleaning the fucking fry cooker. Oh, that job sucks.
Yeah, and then you got guys.
My business is 3 years old. Finally, I have employees, but before I was doing the invoicing, the social media, changing oil in the truck, cleaning the shop, every bit of everything
Absolutely.
was me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
started bringing people on board and realized, okay, maybe it's a bit premature, so I put a couple of them on hiatus. But I'm like, okay, the business isn't ready for that yet because I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't optimized. Like, okay, I have a VA now, great, but it's like, what do I have them do? It's stuff that I know in my sleep, but I haven't mapped it out. I haven't made it the most efficient it could be, to where I can just show them how to do it once and then they can run with it. So I'm like, all right, I need to take a step back.
100%.
Again, next 90 days, I'll figure out really what this is going to look like, and then I'll start putting the right people in the right places.
Yeah, building the systems and laying the expectations is a massive part of it, and getting clarity on it for yourself so that you could actually explain it, or putting yourself in others' shoes.
Where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, that's why they have really 150-page company handbooks, and why training is 3 months at some places. Like, somebody somewhere was uber ridiculous about details because they wanted it to be perfect, and they expect the product to come out and look the same as if they did it themselves. That's what they want, because that's what built them their brand in the first place. So people think they're just going to put the entrepreneur tag on Instagram and just show up. Yeah, that's not how that works, buddy. It's not even close. You just gave yourself a 16-hour-a-day job, and you didn't just guarantee yourself a paycheck. Mm-hmm. So you really have to decide whether you're willing to dedicate your life to what you're doing, because that's legitimately what it takes. That's not even a clip. That's just pure truth. If you're going to start a business in it, you better love it. And I mean love, like be obsessed with it. Otherwise, it's not going to work, because somebody out there definitely is outworking you. Somebody's sleeping 2 hours less than you, guaranteed, every time. So when you go to bed at night, you got to be ready. You got to be ready for somebody to walk right over top of your, like right over your back, knock you down from behind and roll right over you, because people don't give a shit.
They don't know you. Dog. Everyone's hungry. Like you said, there's more people out there there are people out there that are more hungry than you.
Absolutely. Look at the e-com space right now.
I'm going through that process. Like I have a singular concerted focus. So anyone that can add potential value or benefit to what it is I'm doing, and they're not on the same page as me, they don't really exist in my world. And it's not that I'm trying to run over other people, but I see where I want to go and what needs to be done. So it's boom, just tunnel vision until we get there. Yeah. And if you want to come into my life, like, you got to be on board with that.
Yeah. And you have to be, the tunnel vision is like, you have to be selfish in nature to even do this. Otherwise, you're never going to get anywhere, because you're going to see profit in your company. I know a handful of business owners that work in the space that I work in, and they're really good guys, and they have really good guys. But say 5-6 years later, they're still looking week to week to pay payroll. I'm like, how is this even happening? Well, I got to take care of people. I gave so and so $2,500. I gave so and so $10,000. And I'm like, dude, you got to stop. Like, you got to stop. Working capital is a real thing. You have to have it. Like, you have to have it. You have to put a percentage of your money aside. Otherwise, I mean, for a rainy day. Otherwise, you're going to get shit on one day. Like, it's going to happen.
It'll cost you a lot more than you think, too. So whatever number you think you need, go ahead and multiply that by whatever multiple it looks like in your industry, because things come up. You're like, oh, shit. Like, I guess I'm the web guy. I guess I'm the tech guy now. Oh, the modem went out. Well, now I need modems for 6 fucking, now I need Wi-Fi connection for 6 people. I need all of these accounts. And like, these expenses come up that you don't even realize when you're initially mapping this out.
Have somebody sue you one time.
Thank God I haven't had that happen. That's why I run like what are we saying? We'll get to the comments in a second, but like the elf type business where, okay, I don't have any full-time employees. They're all gig type things that I have people do, and just hire them per gig or per whatever. And then, a lot of them are outsourced too. And you can use third-party platforms for that. But I'm going to hit some of these comments since we have a panel up here. Camera action, need a LinkedIn funnel now. I did all the custom flat work for my e-courses and website via Fiverr. Virtual assistant is doing my work now when I do my 9 to 5. Haha, love the times we live in. Yeah, guys, take advantage of the tools you have available to you.
For sure.
For a while, I fancied myself a really good copywriter, and I still like writing copy every now and then. Or go to menshrine.com. You'll see like my natural writing style. This was all way pre-AI, but now, to be honest, I use AI for a lot of stuff. I'll have it do outlines. I'll have it do research for me. I'll still check it, and then Usually I'll go through and copy edit it so it matches kind of my tone or the look and feel of the way I communicate, but it shaves hours and hours off my day. I mean, it can just spit shit out for you like that. I mean, to be honest, I do it for the titles for these videos or the description. It's because in YouTube for the algorithm, it's all like a keyword based game. People go to the descriptions and I say like, oh, there's a join link in the description. Be sure to go there. But do you really read the description? And you're like, oh, I don't like the way he wrote this description. I'm gonna unsubscribe. Like no one really does that. It's all for the algorithm on the back end. So like if I'm not writing for humans, if I'm writing for robots, then I'll let a robot write for a robot. So there's definitely a lot of stuff out there. And then, like I said, Camera Action, hit me up. I'd be interested in talking more about the e-courses, or if you want to get up here and have like a dedicated stream or conversation on it. I'd definitely be interested in what you're doing. I think I need to probably redo my LinkedIn too to make it a little more like biz dev friendly for when I reach out to people for affiliates or collaborators or whatnot. So I'm going to run through a couple of these. You want an elf business though? Power washing is not elf. Yeah, I've heard guys call into like Rich's shows and you hear a lot of mom the power washing thing. So I think like, hey, if you're in a position where you need some extra scratch, like I mentioned, like umpiring baseball or officiating any other sport, or like if you're a real young kid, well, paper routes don't exist anymore. It's all digital now, but paper routes back in the day, that's what people did. If you want to do like, harvest season is coming up. If you're in the US, like pop over to any farm, guess what? They need pickers and they usually pay by the pound. And if you can hang, some of like, we'd get guys from like Central America coming through making $35-$50 an hour. And they'd run out of trees and shit. I'd go to the neighbor's farm, like, hey, you need some pickers, and get myself on the harvest contract. Like you can, especially if you're younger, you better be in good shape, guys. If you're following me or working on getting in good shape, but when you're in good shape, like, you can sell your physical body too. I'm not talking like gigolo type stuff, but you can, especially for guys in your 20s. Like, dude, when I was in my 20s, I was resilient. Like Steve and I used to do this, like drink beers till like 4 a.m. Then at 6 a.m. be out fucking setting ladders up somewhere and just be ready to go.
Painting a fucking house.
We used to do that.
Doing something.
We'd drink until the sun came up in the basement. Like, all right, I got to go be on a roof somewhere. You're like, fuck, that doesn't sound fun, but you did it. You were able to do that.
Yeah.
I want to push back on Buddy's idea there. Like the power washing, yeah, it's not like the end goal for someone's career, but it's a hell of a place to start. If you're 20 and you don't even know where to start with anything, go power wash some stuff for $50-$60 an hour. It beats working at Tim Hortons or Wendy's for $15 an hour.
What's your startup cost for that? Like, what do you need? A truck that runs and the power washer? I mean,
it costs like $500 to start the business, including the fucking bank account and the DBA. Like, and you don't even need an LLC up front. What you do is you go pressure wash 3 or 4 houses, then go build the infrastructure of your business, and you can have somebody do it for $500 or less.
Yeah,
that's a good point. You always start off lean. And then once the money starts coming in, then you can put that back into the business. So, like, for example, you don't get a nice piece if you don't have any customers yet. Like, just find a product market fit and make sure you have a minimally viable product, offer, or service, whatever it is you're doing. And then, like, once money comes in, you're like, okay, now what do I do with this? And then you scale.
Exactly. Go hustle up your first 3 or 4 jobs, and then build your infrastructure and run ads. That's pretty much.
I've got a friend that runs a pressure washing business and window cleaning and stuff, but he's got himself 1 employee and he makes damn good money.
Yeah, it's extremely.
He works all summer and then the winter he takes off. Sometimes he'll flip a house or an apartment or something. He said he makes more money every year when he has his downtime because his brain's just working than he does with the pressure washing stuff. He makes damn good money. You find yourself a niche. Suddenly you're a business owner and now you know how to run a business, and that's the stuff that's really valuable. It's not so much the pressure washing itself, but you can work that towards an elf business.
Yeah, I mean, it's that muscle. Like, you got to get that muscle, understanding I got to build an audience. We all know we have to build an audience these days, otherwise you're not getting work. I got to go hustle a business. So now you've got marketing and sales you're working on. So you're studying 2 different things. Business structure, that's corporate shit. You're learning LLC, difference between an LLC and S corp, a C corp, or whatever other formations. I don't even know. And then you got, now I got to go open a bank account. Like, you're giving yourself a business degree by just doing something. Literally just doing something. You're going and you're creating cash out of thin air. Go to Home Depot, you go buy your pressure washer. That's an expense. Now I got to learn taxes. Right? Now you're getting revenue. Okay, now I got to learn payment processors. Now I got to learn marketing. Now I got to learn how to make an ad. Oh shit, maybe I should just hire somebody because this shit's hard. It's the stuff you just pick up from it. And then when you look up in 5 years and you're like, well, now my pressure washing business turned into a landscaping business that turned into a roofing business, and now now I build houses. All of a sudden, you just kind of just figured out how to get from one thing to another.
Or you just put deals together. I'm
it's
kind
a
of at that point
momentum
now. It's
play
like
than it did more than anything.
I've spent my whole career working in marketing. I was like, I don't want to build websites anymore. I don't want to do like SEO strategies or content strategies. I don't want to do the consultant anymore. Like I'd rather put myself out there and then put deals together, like, expand my network. I'm working more on, obviously like we want to up the quality of content and all that, figure out the YouTube game, but I want to grow my network. I want to grow my wealth. I want to grow my influence. So like, I'd rather put a deal together and then take a point or two on it and then get paid in perpetuity or like monthly renewals or whatever it is. And then just do more of that. And as I mentioned, I think to someone earlier, like once you become a subject matter expert, well, then you have a lot of value to add. You don't have to be working, like if you're an engineer, you don't have to be working as an engineer. If you know the systems inside and out, you can start getting at that business level because your value is your knowledge and your experience.
You can be a building consultant for $250 an hour and read 2 sheets of paper and charge somebody $500 and do that over and over and over and over because people need building consultants all over the place. If you're a construction guy like me.
So guys, I'm going to clear some more of these comments and then maybe start talking about, I like where this conversation's going, and to bring it back to the core topic, let's talk about, okay, like we've identified the need, like William, you specifically, but I know a lot of guys watching are kind of asking the same questions. Like, okay, here's where I'm at. Where do I go? Try to maybe weave in the frugality. At least the way I've experienced it is like, hey, if I don't have to worry about a bunch of shit in my personal life and my expenses are minimal, then that gives me money, and money gives you freedom. That gives me opportunity, and I can play around with things. And, I can maybe throw $500 into some sort of paid funnel to see what it looks like. And if I'm getting ROI, great, then I'll double down on it. And if it sucks, then I'll go back to the drawing board, and I just gained insight and experience there. So we can start to pivot it in that direction, but I'm going to clear some of these out. So yeah, power washing is not ELF. Yeah, guys are cut up on the power washing. Public safety. That's funny. When I read Publix, and I thought like, oh, you want to work at Publix in Florida? Yeah, grocery store. Public safety they don't get good produce in Florida. I noticed, but I think a lot of it's grown on the West Coast, and I'm a farm kid, so I judge everything based on what we actually eat as a family, which we keep the good stuff for us. Public safety always needs men, police, firefighter, EMS, medical field as well. Yeah, my sister's a nurse. Like, it's a tough schedule, but like she's employable anywhere she goes. She can go literally, I think she just switched a job recently. Doesn't take that long. Like, everybody needs something medical, and like police, firefighter. I know like police, again, tough job, but a lot of these departments, they have shortages. My girlfriend has 25 acres. Trust me, there's a ton to do. Property burns, tree removal, gutter clean, mow, pest removal. Response to that comment. Got you a sugar mama at North South, which was the original comment. LOL, no, I'm retired to live in my own place. That's funny. Another one. Yeah, you cannot scale power washing. I've never done power washing, so I don't know, but I could see that, as my brain initially starts to map it out, I could see that potentially being scalable if you get like a bunch of young kids or like recent immigrants and hire them out. Yeah. Yeah, it's on the topic. You can only take so many clients until you're filled up. That's good if you enjoy the job, though. Yeah, I can see that. Like if you're doing anything all yourself, then yeah, like you are limited by your time. But that's at the point in where you figure it out. You get it into a process that's replicable, and then you train someone else to do it.
Yeah, you have to get to that limit before you hire anybody else. That's kind of the point. Is like getting yourself to where you're overly scheduled and booked out a month, and you're like, "Fuck, I need a guy. I need somebody to help."
There comes a point where you just turn into a teacher and a problem solver. That's essentially where I am. Like, I only have 2 guys in the field and a summer student and a secretary, but all I'm doing all day is mostly like paperwork, quotes, and problem solving, and teaching the guys how to do the jobs the way that I want it done and to do it well.
Right.
So you can totally scale the power washing thing too. It's totally doable. It's just your role changes in the business.
It's just not pretty. It's not something that, I own a power washing business. Not everybody's going to be proud of that. We'll just put it that way, to put it very lightly. Yeah.
So I'm going to clear some more of these out. ELF is a myth. That, again, that's another topic we can, shelve for another day. I do agree with that to some degree. Yeah. I do agree too. Like everything I'm doing now, it's fun. It's stuff I enjoy doing. But to be honest, looking at like YouTube analytics, I'm like, oh, well, like here's this video, the one I posted last night, right out the gate. and you know how to identify trends, like, oh, this one could possibly go viral, and then all my videos get capped. They hit like a certain point, and then YouTube just flatlines them, just does not put them in front of people anymore. I'm like, well, fuck, that's a challenge I have to deal with. So Steve and I spent hours on post show calls figuring out, like, well, what do we do here, like on YouTube? Like, okay, give value to the audience we already have, maybe try to change the strategy a bit to get new eyeballs, and then put this behind a paywall, like an accessible, like $10.99 or like $9.99 a month or something, so that way we're not restricted. That way we can get into these topics and not worry about it like dinging my channel, which again, I see YouTube as like top of the funnel type activities, but I want to bring guys lower down the funnel. And then the lower down the funnel you go, the more LTV, which is like lifetime value you add as a customer or client. So yeah, right. Like it's not all fun. It's not fun doing a video that like, hell yeah, this is really good. It gets like 20 views. And then my VA posts a clip of like something I don't even remember saying, because it probably pulled it out of my ass at the moment. That one goes viral. I'm just like, well, why the fuck did that one do so well? Like,
doesn't make any sense.
Didn't even remember what the topic was.
We're doing this 25 hours a week minimum. Like, we're putting 20 to 25 hours a week into the back end and plus the stream. So it's a job at the end of the day. It's exhausting.
Crypto, stock investing, real estate. Some businesses can be elf. Yeah, we'll pull away from that off topic. Excellent advice, Jake. Yeah, Jake, you have a fan. I'm sick of guys looking for an easy way out. Do the work. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Yeah. Steve started off the show with that. Building e-courses for others is fun. I am also in compliance 6 years in, and I did law school. Yeah, like I said, camera action, definitely hit me up. I'd love to collaborate or see what you got going on.
Sounds like for sure. That's
some overlap in areas of interest or experience. North-South, got to get to the kids, but good show and value. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, guys. And if you are getting value out of this, if you haven't done so, like the video right now, subscribe to the channel. For this channel, you have to ring the notification bell and make sure you enable all notifications from this channel. Otherwise, you're just not going to see my stuff. And Steve and I are going to be doing a lot of stuff. I'll be doing a lot of my own stuff. So we'll be doing quite a bit of content coming out. Definitely, if you ever want to, feel free to jump up on stage here and shoot the shit with us. And then leave any comments down below. Share with your friends.
Yeah, thanks for the comments, y'all. I appreciate it.
William, you going to drop off?
Yeah, I'm going to hop off.
All right, man. Cool. Take care. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Appreciate you coming.
Good luck, William.
All righty. Rich recommends a book called The Company of One. Yeah, that's on my reading list. I'll do that once we get the conversation.
That's kind of the new age, the way the things are going. Guys are starting to, you can go make 80 grand by yourself and not have to talk with anybody. So that's becoming a very, very popular way of living your life. I mean, that's pretty much how we live our lives, short of a couple of employees over there, VA over here, VA for you. I mean,
Caleb Jones, whose stuff I like quite a bit, he recommends, I was listening to this podcast in the gym, he recommends like to live a location-independent lifestyle and be very comfortable pretty much anywhere in the world, like places like London or Dubai or Tokyo. Yeah, maybe you need a little bit more, but to live very like $85K a year is what he says. Like, hit that benchmark. $85K a year, you can live very comfortably here. I do quite a bit more than that. And like I said, I've surprised myself these last couple of months. Like, oh shit, like I'm breaking the paradigm. I'm not working in a corporate structure anymore. Like, what am I going to do? And I managed to replace my income very quickly. So now it's like that dual nature, that dichotomy. It's like, well, am I working too hard, or am I not working hard enough? Like
you'll learn. You'll figure out.
It should have been. Yeah, it should have been harder, but I was able to knock it off pretty quick.
I mean, it was hard. You did 15 years of work beforehand.
True. Yeah.
So you kind of just like flowed into it.
Yeah, I was a corporate slave for a while.
It wasn't like me, dude.
You do learn a thing or two. Yeah.
Yeah. COVID forced me to do that shit. So, I mean, I had to take the lumps where I got the lumps.
Here's a funny one. Clap cheeks and make money, boys. Yeah. People get me on Rich's show all the time and I talk about chicks. It's like, it's all about chicks. I'm like, no, dude, I've literally spent 0 of my day thinking about chicks, but like I'm going to have one come over later. So yeah, like clapping cheeks, it makes you sleep better too. It makes your day a little more enjoyable. So yeah, clap cheeks and get to work, boys, or make money.
Funny.
$500 in a Bitcoin, crypto runner. I'm assuming it's a name like that.
On a t-shirt. That's going to be our first item in the merch line.
Yeah, crypto runner, 500 into Bitcoin. With a name like crypto runner, I'm assuming you hold some crypto at some point. Relationship status, a panel, annual income. Yeah, we can do that. Relationship status, I do multiple long-term relationships. I usually like having 1 or 2 MLTRs. Those are essentially like girlfriends. And then I have like a couple of rotation girls, maybe 2 to 3. And then if there's free time and a girl wants to come over, girls come and go from the rotation. The MLTRs, those can last for years at a time. But sometimes, they don't like being shared, especially with Mexican girls who are a little more conservative. So they'll fall off at times, but then they usually come right back. They'll try a serious relationship with someone. obviously you guys know, like, not everyone's wired like guys like us. So, like, most guys fuck it up 3 to 6 months, they'll be single again and they come right back. So that's kind of what my dating life looks like. I get shit on Rich's show all the time, like, oh, you should be getting married and having kids. I might at some point, but I'm not at that chapter in my life yet, and everyone's at different places in their journey there. But that model, the 1 to 2 MLTRs, 2 to 3 just like kind of regular rotation girls, and then free time, if a cool chick wants to pop in, they all start as one night stands essentially. But like, if the girl's cool and there's chemistry, then I'll see her more frequently and she can become a rotation girl or an MLTR if she chooses to do so. That structure works very well for me. I've modeled that after like Caleb Jones Alpha 2.0 type model. However, I was already kind of 90% of the way there on my own. I just got a lot of guys that talk shit about my relationship model. And then I found a guy, he's like, this is exactly how you maximize happiness in your dating life. I'm like, I came to that conclusion 90% of it on my own. So and this guy's been doing it for years and years, and he's still got a lot of energy and seems like he's got it figured out. So I'm like, that gives me hope there. But that's my relationship model. And annual income, mine fluctuates. It has gone up over the years. I think last year, how do I say this? I did really, really well, but I wrote a lot of stuff off and I put a lot in the market or whatever. So last year, like officially, yeah, I'll just say that last year officially, like 120K. So that was my, I brought it, I grossed a lot more than that, but a lot of that money went back out. But as far as like what I took home and that like I have to meet, again, I only keep like 50K in cash and the rest goes to work somewhere else. But officially, if you guys catch my gist, 120K. And that was my goal when I got rid of all the corporate clients. Like, all right, I need 10K a month, and I'm going on month 2. I think I'm a K shy, but I have some deals, ready to go through. So I'll definitely hit it, and I'll probably go over. So for me, about 120K, and that's the mark where if you live outside of the U.S. for American citizens for more than 330 days, you don't pay taxes on your first 120K. So
right.
there's a reason that was my take home pay. That's what I paid myself. But I grossed about 300K last year, but I did the overemployed thing, which is a grind. But for guys that like, hey, I want to do the corporate thing, and I got to the point like, well, I don't want to be a CMO. I don't want the stress. I don't want to be a senior level VP. What I can do is take my level of proficiency, maybe accept a job that's like 2 or 3 or even 3 to 5 years behind me. So 150K is about where I go for that. It's like, all right, shit that I can do in my sleep because I've done it time and time again over the course of my career. Well, then you have multiple employers. So I did the overemployed thing, two jobs at 150K a year plus what I made on my channel. Those contracts didn't last the entire year. Eventually I went to 1099. So, but I came in gross just around 300K last year. And then I paid myself 120K, and then now it's all me. So I was able to, I'm able to hit the 10K a month on my own. Now it's like, I think my next goal is 30K a month is what I set out for myself.
Yeah. I've been in a relationship for 2.5 years, and I own a business, and I will kind of structure it the same way Jaron does. My company does a lot more money, but I pay myself right around 10 grand a month, 10, 12 grand a month, depending on the month, but pretty simple.
Yeah, I'm single myself, playing the field, and then I'm making just north of 6 figures. The business did, I think $750,000 in sales last year for the business, but paying myself just north of six figures.
It's like 13% net ish.
Yeah, I could have done way better in my own pocket last year, but I tried expanding a little prematurely and it didn't really go as planned. So I
feel that.
Yeah, that's business, baby.
But you got over the magic number, right? I mean, the magic number is roughly, I would say 10 grand a month is about the magic number. But yeah, I've done a couple of things that have cost me some cash, put it that way.
Yeah.
Including some personal things that have cost me some cash. So yeah, I've kind of bounced between, my best year in business was a little bit north of what Jaron did, and his best year was like 360, and then my lowest, I think, personal take home was 100. Last year I paid taxes on 122,000. So
right.
So business keeps a lot of it. I don't even.
And if you notice, guys, that's a really good question to start weaving in the frugality topic a bit more.
Yeah.
Even though we gross a lot more, we pay ourselves just north of 100K. Again, for my reason, it's for tax reasons. Like, okay, I don't get taxed on the first 120K. My total expenses, including food, because I can get food delivery service here, 3 meals a day. It's like $400 a month. plus my rent, plus my internet, plus water and gas, which in Mexico, like everything's really cheap.
Yeah.
So $1,500, and I live in the nicest neighborhood in the country, where like all the bankers and politicians and actors and actresses and wealthy, influential to-do type people live, and I live very comfortably. My minimum budget is about $1,500 a month. I usually come in around 2,800 if I travel to the US to do like top 1% meetup, top 10% meetup. If I go to music festivals or concerts, like I'm going to a concert this weekend, dropped a couple $100 on that for really good tickets. So so that can vary, but even when I'm traveling and having a lot of fun, usually I don't spend more than $3,000 a month. So the rest of the money, it's like, what do I do with it? I do like sitting on cash, just because I grew up kind of with meager means in my early childhood. So that's kind of a part of me. It's like, all right, when you have cash, like you can make shit happen if shit hits the fan really quickly. And then the rest of it, the rest of the money just goes back to work for me. But I noticed you guys mentioned that you make more, but you don't pay yourself more. I'd be curious to know kind of what the rationale is behind that, if it's similar to mine, or
well,
if there's a different way to
if
look
your
at
business,
it.
if your business does $1 million, right? If your business does $1 million and you make like 10% of that, or that's pretty normal. 10% of your gross is pretty much take home. I mean, you've got all kinds of expenses and stuff in the middle. You gotta put out marketing. You got employees. You got insurance. You got trucks. You've got rent. You got utilities. Any fuck ups anybody decided to throw out there during the year, which could be $100,000 worth of shit that you had to fix. Insurance. I mean, expenses eat up 50% of that. I mean, labor is between 25 and 35%. Expenses are going to be 25 to 35%. Then if you want to grow marketing, throw some money in marketing, and you got another 10%. Say through whatever 50,000 in marketing. If you do $1 million, I'm just rounding numbers off for the sake of the conversation. Any sort of growth, then you're looking at growth. Like if you want to go do 2 million next year, so your net after you put your money away for legal, put your money away for insurance, put your money away for a rainy day, as far as like mistakes and stuff, plus any interest on any loans, if you have any lines of credit. I mean, there's a million factors, but the reality is, as a business owner, if you're taking home 10% of your gross, like you're doing a pretty good job for the most part. So like just because somebody owns a 7-figure business doesn't necessarily mean they're making 7 figures. It just means they're putting $1 million through the bank account. And that equates to what I just said. It can be as low as 7% for a higher grossing business. Like somebody who has a $50 million business may take home 3.5 million a year. That's 7% of 50 million. And that's a check, right? That's a lot of money. It's a few $100,000 a month, but they had to do $50 million in business to do so. That's also why I kind of vote against the idea of having a partner unless your margins are a lot higher. That's the other part of it. It's like if you can get into a business where your gross margins are somewhere near 50% versus 25 or 30 or 10 or 15, or depending on what business you're in, because like restaurants are way lower than everybody else, but they do a lot of volume. If you can get somewhere near 50 and you can squeeze 15%, this is why trades are so good, because trades you can get 50% out of a lot of jobs. So if you can get into a higher margin game, say you get 15% or 16% net to take home, rather than 8 or 9 or 10, which is normal, then you're going to make a lot more money on the growth side. So a $10 million electrical business like his, if he's doing a $10 million electrical business and he's taking home 13%, that's $1.3 million before taxes as a take-home pay after all expenses and stuff. And I'm sure there's other things too, like that you would want to pay out of that, right? And you would, if you were making that kind of money, you'd put $300,000 into the business and grow it even more, so you can be a $15 million business next year. So it's not a one size fits all for any business. It changes per the industry you're in, and what you decide your acceptable profit margins are, and investors too. Like if you have investors and they own 25% of your business, just because you make net 13, you're probably going to actually net 10 because you got to pay out 3 points to the other guys. So it's seriously, it's individual, and there are companies in construction that do 20%. They're ridiculously expensive, and they have no overhead, and they're making they're taking home 35%, and that's great. I mean, it happens, but it's if you're scaling, it's very rare. It's very rare to get that high, right? That's typically average gross profit margin on a job is like 35% or so for at least my experience in business. If that's a that's a minimum acceptable profit margin for a lot of jobs. 28% is minimum, super minimum if we're really trying to get the job, and it's a big job because you've got to put a little cash away, like 10% of whatever you made on that job, just in case just to cover warranties for whatever period of time your company covers warranties. So
yeah,
not just, he's a millionaire because he does 10 million. That's not entirely true.
30% is about the lowest I want to go, and usually I try to shoot for 50 or better. But yeah, there's a lot of overhead in my business. Like, yeah, I sold 750 grand last year, but again, pocketed, about a seventh of that, let's just say. So a lot went into the payroll material we buy. Luckily, we can mark it up and make a buck off it. But like that 750 grand, it went into my bank account and right back out pretty damn quick. There's a lot of overhead and trying to grow too.
Yeah, that's 80 after taxes, guys. It's
like
that's 80, why 85K.
That's why I like digital so much, because the overhead's not that high. I mean, really, all the software subscriptions and productivity tools and management suites and analytic, reporting tools and stuff, maybe a few $100 a month I spend for total expenses. I do hire VAs to do stuff every now and then, but I mean, when you outsource your labor, you can get that really cheap, like pennies on the dollar. Compared to what I charge my clients for labor, let's just say, there's fat, like ridiculous, like stupid margins on that. So
right.
That's why I've always liked digital, and I've always worked in digital my whole career, so I don't know anything else.
That's a very good point, though. Too is a lot of these bigger companies. If you're good enough and an expert enough to get into a consulting gig, that somebody's willing to pay you a $5,000 retainer a month. I have a couple of clients that are paying retainers and they just run out over 90 days or whatever. But if they're willing to pay you $5,000 a month, these guys have a budget, and if they're being funded by somebody outside, they're looking to spend that amount of money. They're not looking to save any money. They're looking to get to a certain point, especially in government contracts. Otherwise, they will generally reduce their funding for the next year. So they want their funding to be big. And to pull somebody with as much experience and expertise as Jaron, they're willing to pay instead of paying somebody else who could probably get the job done, no doubt, for like $2,500. They're willing to pay the $5,000 because they need to fill up that budget. So that's why government contracts are so nice, because you can get in.
And it's cheap. It's cheap too. So I'll charge my guys like $500 an hour. Say they buy a block of 10 hours a month from me. It's only $5,000. Like when you look at a marketing budget where they pay an agency to do some of these things, like they'll start like $50,000, or like for paid marketing. A lot of my corporate clients, they start at $100,000 a month in paid. So for me, paying me $5,000 a month just to get me on a couple phone calls and tell them exactly what to do and what not to do, that is a bargain for them. So a lot of guys, like I think they get in the habit of they put these numbers in their head, like, oh, that's a big number, that's a lot of money. For me, when my business coach told me, he's like, dude, you need to start at $500 a month. I'm like, that's a lot. Like I was making $50 an hour, 7 years ago. He's like, but when you look at it, when you start looking at the business from a consulting lens, you're like, oh yeah, they're not paying me shit, relative to all the other expenses they have. And I'm saving them a lot of time and money and heartache and preventing them from going down roads that they wouldn't know not to go down otherwise.
Yeah.
The head trash and what to charge is a big one too. Like getting into this stuff is huge, trying to get over what you can actually charge and what people are willing to pay. Like you could be saving someone tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars just by doing your job efficiently and well, and you're only charging $50.
Well,
yeah, that's
like,
totally true.
It's like, I won't pitch it again, but guys, the top 10% group down here, I'll have guys be like, oh, $1,000, that's kind of rich. I'm like, yeah, but you get access to me, and I bill out at $500 an hour, and you get access to Moff. I think he bills out around there. Josh, who like does events for celebrities and shit. He's invited me to a couple model mansion parties and really nice places, like Malibu or LA or, around there. He's very well connected in that industry. You get guys like Rich. I think Rich charges like what, $2,000-$3,000 an hour, and he works with like $100 million a year career level CEOs. So you get access to us for lifetime like that. So if you look at it in those terms, it's actually a hell of a value. Cause I was at the same point where Rich is like, oh, charge $1,000 for it. I'm like, shit, that's kind of rich for a lot of guys that follow me. But when you look at the value that you get, or like not even value, and there's a lot of value in there. We get in some really cool group discussions, but you have access to people that can put you in touch with other people, or like I said, we bill out in our respective careers at way higher than that, multiples higher than that. So if you look at it that way, it's definitely a value. And again, if you want more information on that, hit me up Instagram at Jaron Scott. I'll get you in there. If you're ready to roll right now, in the description, there's a payment link, and if you want to do PayPal, you can use PayPal credit too.
If you didn't make $1,000 off your connection in that group, you did something wrong.
Getting into Rich's top 1% group. The prices scale as the group grows. So I got in a few years ago, but still that was pretty rich for me at the time. I don't even remember what I'm paying. It just, just bills annually, and it goes into my education, self-improvement category. And I spend a lot of money on myself anyway. So I don't even know what I'm paying. But at first I'm like, shit, this is a lot of money for like, what am I going to get out of it? I've never joined a private group before. And then problems or things I was dealing with at that time, you go to the first meetup and you get involved in the forums and you get on the calls and you throw it out there like, hey guys, here's, I'm stuck on this thing. And there's like 6 other guys like, oh dude, I was there like 10 years ago. Here's exactly what I did. And then these guys, they kind of clear the path for you mentally. And you're like, oh, it's a lot easier. So when I joined the group, I was working in El Salvador. I did this intentionally. I didn't make a lot of money there, but we were locked down for COVID. And buddy's like, hey, you speak Spanish. You want to go to El Salvador and build a call center? They just elected a new president. I'm like, well, it's a small country, and I wouldn't mind, making some connections down there and just kind of seeing what's going on there. And they had adopted Bitcoin as like an acceptable form of currency there. So I'm like, I'm locked down in COVID and no one's working. So like, yeah, I'll go down there and check it out. I made like $30,000 in El Salvador that year. And then the following year, I multiplied that income by almost a 10x factor. And a lot of that came from these private groups where I'm like, hey guys, like, how do I structure an offer? How do I do this? The thing where like, hey, charge $500 an hour, bill out your time in blocks and then just have them pay it $10.99 for the retainer. Well, that came through a business coach I hired that I met through that private network. So immediately that the group membership paid for itself. And that's why I honestly can't even tell you what I'm paying, because I've received so much residual value or surplus value. It's, it's kind of a non-issue for me now.
Absolutely.
Yep. Same boat. I've been able to save myself money and set myself in a different trajectory too. As far as running a business goes, I'm sure it's saved myself. I'm in the 1% myself, and it's definitely paid for itself already.
And again, guys, like if you're not ready for the 1%, we did create this feeder group. Banners at the bottom. Hit me up on Instagram or click that payment link in the description, and we will get you set up. Let's see, comments wise. Crypto runner, nice 80K here, single spinning plates. Yeah, that's a good place to be. I think when they do those happiness factors, that's usually about where they say that people experience the most happiness. It used to be like 75K, but with inflation, it's probably like 80K. Caleb Jones says 85K for that. Ages, I am 35 years old. I will be 36 here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm 33. I'll be 34 in August.
Just turned 34.
Nice. Yeah, so we're all about the same age here. So heading back to the frugality thing. So like we've all kind of mentioned where we're at, what we're currently doing, but for the younger guys listening, my audience is a bit younger. It's usually like 25 to like 34 range, although I have some guys younger and I have some guys even a bit older, but the bulk of my audience falls in that 25 to 35 or 25 to 34, I think officially it is range. For guys like that, to start bringing back to like the frugality type topics, I think the main premise or the main thing that I try to get out there is that if you're not making a lot of money yet, and while you're trying to figure out how to scale your income, then minimize your expenses, because that difference in terms of dollars in versus dollar out, that gives you freedom. So if let's say you're not making a lot of money, but you're stacking a lot of cash away at the end of each month, well, when an opportunity comes up like, hey, Jaron, do you want to go to El Salvador and build a call center with me? Yes, I can go. I flew to Miami, lived there for 3 months, and then we got on a plane to El Salvador. My business partner stayed there for a month, kind of showed me the ropes of his industry, and then I went to work, and he went back to Miami and got involved in another project. And I was just, yes, you can say yes. You can do shit like that. You can pack a car and drive across the country. I'm going to add – I was going to say my buddy. I haven't officially met him yet, but I saw him on Huds' stream last night, and it was really a good discussion. So I reached out to him today. Glenn, how you doing? I saw your stream with Huds last night. And yeah. I've been working with him. I was like, damn, this guy has some interesting stuff. I had your stuff on in the background this morning when I was doing my boring part of work, like YouTube analytics and thumbnails and tags and following up on leads and all that shit. So I reached out to you and you gracefully accepted to come on up. So how you doing? We're talking about frugality here, but we've kind of gone more into like how to work for yourself, some location independent stuff. So now it's just kind of a free for all chat, but I definitely appreciate you joining my show and hope to collab with you more in the future.
No, I appreciate the invite. Thank you guys for allowing me to come conversate, and thanks for checking out the channel. This is like my second channel because like a month ago or the beginning of this month, my channel got taken down because I made fun of Abba and Preach. And
oh yeah, I saw that. Hey, Steve, do you have something on the background, or does someone have a TV or radio on or something? It sounds kind of garbled on my end. Oh, there you go. You just moved your yeah. I think it might be Jake. I'm an audio nerd. I watch this stuff back on hi-fi audio.
I've been hearing it, but
it drives me nuts.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, I thought it was you for a second. Anyways, yeah, part of my interruption.
So what exactly is the conversation? If I'm just so, we're talking about like fragility, like fragile, or like
no, frugality, living below your means to maximize freedom in life. And then people started lighting up the comments in the chat, asking more specifically about like what do you know business wise? What have you done? Things that are kind of more specific to the person posting that. And we just powered through all the comments. So now I'm trying to bring it back to frugality. But really, I mean, we can let the conversation flow organically.
You mean just like living within your means?
Yeah, living within your means.
Being frugal, being a minimalist,
minimize expenses while maximizing income is kind of what I was trying to get at with it. But that might mean different things to different people too.
Well, I mean, people have to first, realize that they don't have to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a huge one.
Like, all the time. Yeah. No one cares about what car you drive. I have no car, and it does not impede me getting the girls. Let's say that.
Well, it's funny because like I'm in the entertainment industry, so I work in Hollywood. I've done movies, do production work behind the scenes, and it's like I have met more rich producers driving up in a busted ass Honda, CRV. And these guys, they're attached to some of the biggest name movies and actors that you've seen, but they roll around in a piece of crap car. You would think that they're rolling up in a Rolls Royce or something. And how do they stay wealthy? How do they stay on top? Because they only take care of the things that are important. And what's important is not what public people think about you. What they drive is not going to make you like them or dislike them anymore. It's just smarter. So
Yep.
People just gotta learn how to keep up with the Joneses.
I've never been more frugal in my life since I actually started working for myself and making more money. Start realizing the actual value of $1. Finally whittling down debt that I accrued when I was working for other people before, thinking I needed all the dumb toys and stuff.
Been there. Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah, we've all done that. And then you realize that the boss ain't always rich, bro. He ain't always rich. He ain't always killing it. He's the guy who's not eating this week because he made sure you got paid. That's Steve, the reality of business.
Cameras reversed. Steve, you've seen me. You visited me in California where I'm pulling money out of retirement accounts to make payroll for that week. I'm just like, shit. Like, when are we gonna start bringing some income, some dollars?
Dude, yeah. I've had more than 1 week where we've pulled in, $3,000, and I had an overflow, so I hired extra estimators. And that $3,600 that I made, $3,300 of it went out to my estimating staff. Like it
Jake,
just.
Do you have earphones by any chance? I think it might be feedback.
I think it's feedback.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'll try the earphones again. I'll sign off and sign back on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, or just mute yourself until you talk. Yeah, I can't
that's fun
feedback.
Too.
I'm an audio nerd in another facet of my life, and it drives me nuts.
But yeah,
I do that too. Like I do a lot of editing. So like I'm the producer for like Paul from Apex Mindset.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you are, yeah.
Yeah,
I like Paul a lot. He used to be really involved in Rich's 1% group. Then he took his own brand or whatever. But I've known Paul for a few years. Yeah, I texted him today. I was like, God, how do I get on a Rule Zeros show or something like that?
I've been on.
Yeah, I've seen you on
3 or 4 of them now. It's pretty cool. I did the Vegas one with Rollo Live. That was a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, because some of the shows I do get invited on, I can't really share every aspect of my lifestyle with them because there's not really an audience fit. So a lot like you'll get like your more TradCon guys on some of the streams I go on. And when I'm talking about like smashing out Mexican models and shit, they're like, "Oh, who's this guy?" I'm like, "Well, you can do that. Here's how you do it." But they don't want to hear that. You know, they're going through a divorce right now. That's the last thing they want to hear.
No, they don't. And it's funny because like when I think of the red pill space, I think there's like an overarching general rule there, like, or belief, right? And the whole thing is really supposed to talk about female nature, female, understanding intersexual dynamics.
Intersexual dynamics.
Yeah. And when you understand that, once you understand that, then you could choose how you want to go. I think there's a lot of different, groups or within the red pill space. You got the TradCon Christian, sphere. And I can respect that. I have a degree in religion, so I understand their worldview, and I really try to go and communicate with those guys more, or those that fall under that Christian, belief, because they're the ones that are really hurting themselves in this space, or not being in this space, or rejecting the space, like the Ruslans and the Hafiz. Those guys are really out there, really just spitting out a female version or a feminist version of Christianity that are hurting people. And my point is to try to get to those guys. And then you got guys that like love the game, love the POA stuff, and I'm like, that's cool, do your thing. My whole thing is always be upfront about it. That's just where I fall. Like, I don't like the deception when people promote the deception aspect of it. I don't like that, but I'm all cool with it. Like, do your thing, man. Like, if it brings joy to your life and it's not hurting anybody, then cool, do your thing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of guys come to these spaces because maybe it's not even the right term, but they're lost or they're lacking direction in a very specific area of their lives. So for me, like, I always try to be transparent too. And sometimes I'll catch myself. I'm like, in my head, in the moment, I'm like, do I want to say this? I'm like, yeah, this is what I made last month. Here's how I did it. I know I'm not driving a Bugatti, but living in Mexico, making 10K a month, you live very, very well. You can have a very good time, and it's not that hard to achieve. So yeah, I'm not at Andrew Tate's level, but to be honest, most people aren't going to get there. They're not going to get close to there.
But do you need to be? That's the thing. Like,
no.
To live a life where you're living comfortably, you have everything you need. You don't need to be on Tate's level. You're still on top of your game.
Nor do I want the stress or the press.
That's such a really good point.
The side things that come along with that. Yeah,
that's such a really good point. Is that guys don't realize if you make $80,000 a year and you're relatively fit and you're a 5 in the face, you're like the top 2% of men on the planet.
Yeah,
you don't realize that. We're 1 of 50, bro. Like, you're 1 of 50. Like, that means if a chick sees 1,000 people a day, she saw 20 dudes that maybe could possibly compete with you, and that doesn't even include guys that are in a relationship.
Every time I get on an airplane, I look around and I'm like, because like usually the flight crew is really nice to me. The pilot usually greets me or whatever. And I look around, I'm like, why does the pilot greet me? I'm like, I look at the rest of the flight. I'm like, if shit goes down, that pilot's coming to me to to lend some muscle. To get people in or out of that fucking airplane.
Yeah, it's just so funny. People's perspective is so fucking skewed because, I mean, I'm not going to talk shit about Andrew Tate because I love a lot of his message and some of the shit's kind of obnoxious, but they're like, no, you don't need to be on his level. You don't need to be on his level. Go figure out how to make 10 grand a month and go to the gym. And you're like, you're basically, I don't want to say you're basically there. You're not making 50 million a year or whatever, but he's even said it. You don't need to make that money no more. He can go do whatever the hell he wants now. He's doing it because he loves the game. So if you're out there just like making money to survive or making money so you can go have experiences, you're living the same quality of life from that perspective. He just gets to do it on a private jet.
Right? Huh? That's what it comes to, right? Quality of life. Are you making enough to afford the quality of life that you want?
Yep.
Like are you? I mean, Andrew Tate level, right? You're not. You haven't done the things that he has done to get there. Maybe you don't want to do the things that he has done to get there. I mean, maybe you don't want to start a cam business and have that. Maybe that goes against your ethics. So
I managed 2 OnlyFans chicks for a few months. It's a pain in the ass. Like, there's a reason they do OnlyFans. They're not the best employees. Yeah. Like, give me like 2 TikTok reels a day and we did sequences. Like, this is what I need from you per week. It'll take 1 to 2 hours a week, and then I'll, we'll give you like a profit split. We all went in as partners, and I had a agency fulfilling everything. and they still couldn't get the content to me on time. I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. Like,
Yeah,
I'll do my own content because I'll get
it's
my
a
shit done on
headache.
time.
Maybe you don't like, and even from an ethical point of view, maybe you're against it and you just don't want to do it. So if you're not willing to do what the other person's done, then why are you trying to compete with them?
Yeah, or compare yourself to them at all.
Compare yourself to them. Yeah, like it just doesn't. To me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, are you able to fulfill the things that you want to fulfill in life? Are you able to reach the goals that you want to reach in life? Are you living in the lifestyle that you want to live? If you say, yeah, I'm living comfortably, I have nothing to complain about. I could always have more, but do I need more? No. So if that's where you're at, then dude, 90% of the population, especially in America, are not even there.
Yeah.
90% of the people don't know how to even get there. And a lot of guys don't know how to get there. So it's like you are the top percentage, you're up there. Just because you don't have as many zeros in your bank account doesn't mean you're not a high value guy or a top quality guy.
Yeah.
Oh, you made it. You made it to the show,
Yeah, at least you're playing the game, right? Like at that point, at least you were born with the what's that personality trait that puts you in the game.
Exactly.
And I think that's actually, that's to people's positive, like there's upside to that and there's downside to that is you do want to be at the top of the game. So you want to compare yourself to the best. Well, it's just unfair for you and it's unrealistic, but if you want to compare yourself to that and get 1% closer to that or whatever that looks like every single day for yourself, then go do that. If going to that level and feeling so bad about yourself motivates you to get up and go to the gym and go to work, then I guess do that if it fulfills you. You know what I mean? Like, do whatever you want. Like, nobody's telling you to do one thing or the other. But if you want to make millions of dollars and, drive a Bugatti, fucking do it. Why not? You just gotta. Just don't complain when you don't have it and you don't do the work. That's all I'm saying.
That's the problem, though, right there, right? People complain.
Yeah.
Okay, like it like the feminist narrative right now. It's like we want equity, so you don't want equality. You want equity. You want things to equal out to be the same. So you want the guy that is you want to be able to make the money that Andrew Tate's making, but you're not willing to do the same work that Andrew Tate did to get there to make that money. So you want to work at Starbucks and be able to have that same bank account that Andrew Tate has. And it's like, well, where do you get off on wanting that, right? Like, where do you get off on feeling like you should be entitled to that? You got to be able to put in the work to get what you want. And if you're not willing to put in the work, then why are you complaining? Where do you feel like you need to complain?
People were never even remotely 1% like this before social either. Because they saw that it was like, oh, this big crazy highlight reel of things, and like we talked about it a little bit earlier. I don't know if you were on or not, but we were talking about like the pain that a fucking business owner goes through. Like to get to 110, hit these milestones, that shit is painful. That shit hurts, and it hurts a lot more than having a job where you make $100K.
Oh yeah, when you're working for yourself, like it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's like I'm raising funds right now to make a documentary on false rape allegations and the long lasting effect that somebody that either gets imprisoned or just going through the court case and stuff, what does that do? What does that have on them, especially in the post Me Too era? Because I was falsely accused back in 2004 when I was in the military, and I went through a 9-month court martial. And you can watch the details on it. I shared it with Paul from Come On Man podcast. We did a 2-hour episode, and we were breaking it down, and I was like, that was before Me Too, and there was a lot of issues that I had to work through after that because of the court case and everything. But I'm like, man, with all these different cases and stuff coming up, it's like, wonder what's the long lasting effect of this. And trying to raise the funds to get that, to get that project going off the ground. Because I could do all the work myself. I went to school for this, so I could film and everything, do all that. It's like it's literally pulling teeth with people that are say that they're supporters of this or they're supporters of this movement or whatever. And I'm like, cool, then let's try to raise the funds to do it. And I know I'm paying for it out of my pocket. I've paid for every project that I've done, primarily out of my pocket with little fundraising. But it's just crazy that when you're trying to work for yourself and when you're trying to share a product with people. Everybody thinks that because you are making this product yourself, or your influence or whatever, that you are rolling in the dough, that you have all this money come, and it's not true. It's working for yourself, even whether it's
lean nights.
Yeah, you got the ramen nights,
Mm-hmm.
You're not eating caviar, you're eating top ramen and maybe a Pop-Tart.
Yeah,
But they also
best case
assume that you know
scenario,
what you're
cheap
doing,
ground
too.
beef and top ramen mixed.
Exactly. You
With
try to get
pasta
the
sauce.
lean one too, but
Yeah, but it's a little expensive. We all know that 80-20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I think that's the kind of where we fell in the premises is pretty much entrepreneurship and the paying, the frugal living part of it. I mean, we just kind of like I naturally do it just because I know that there's going to come a time where it's going to stop. Like, and whether that's a week or a month or whatever, it's going to stop. And you got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be ready for that.
Yeah, it's feast or famine. We've mentioned that.
Chris, you could
yeah, here, I'll put these up here.
Yeah, I saw that.
So evening, gents. Hope you're all well. Personally speaking, I've been able to build the life I love. Yeah, Chris is very active in Rich Cooper's top 1% group, and he likes connecting with a lot of guys. So Glenn, how do we connect?
Yeah, you could reach out to me on Instagram or my email, or my Instagram is Glenn_Lawrence_presents. And my email is glawrence@glennlawrence.info. Those are probably the best two ways to reach out to me. Jaron Scott did. He hit me up right away on Instagram. So
I saw you on Hudsman's show last night, and I was like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah, me and Huds have a show called Your Big Brothers Podcast that we started, and we started it and we stopped for a few months, and then we're starting back up slowly. But yeah, no, we try to bring on girls on Thursdays, do our Thirsty Thursday show. We're talking dating and stuff and sexual interdynamics. I have a few episodes that we did with a few actresses that I know that I've worked with in the industry, and that was cool. We had some like weird sex therapist chick on there one time. She was weird.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it was cool. So yeah,
I've been contemplating getting my girls up here. Most of them are ESL, but they're models, actresses, singers. I like the artsy type girls, the creative type girls, because I'm a creative myself. So those girls naturally tend to gravitate towards me. But I've contemplated bringing them up. Whenever I put them on Instagram, they always get harassed. They're like, who are these fucking weirdos reaching out to me? I'm like, oh yeah, they might need some better audience alignment. But
yeah,
that's something I'll definitely consider in the future, because I date some really cool chicks and a lot of cool shit too, and they speak English well enough to where they can get the point across, and the accent's always really cute to the native ear.
What topics would you hit, Jared?
It would be like more dating stuff, probably more the intercultural stuff. People seem to like the intercultural type stories that I put on my channel, because I have extensive experience living in Mexico and Latin America on and off throughout the last 20 years.
Do you have a dual citizenship out there?
I'm not a citizen. I'm a resident here.
Okay.
So after I've got a few more years left, and then I can get my citizenship here if I want to.
Because I was looking into that like maybe a year or two ago, and I thought I read something about like property. Like you have to be a citizen or have a dual citizenship in order to own property. If you don't, they could confiscate it if they wanted to.
It used to be a 50-year land grant from the government. Then they changed it to where, like, in certain zones, like in the tourist zones, like X amount of miles close to the border or any coast, then you could do it. And then it was for Mexico to set up a corporation. It's called SAA de CB. So like look at any of your Mexican imported products, you'll see that. That's like their version of a corporation. Then I heard you can do something like that, and then you have to have like a Mexican national. I think they call it like a presta nombre, which is like a loaner name. You give them like 1%, 2%, whatever the points are. So they're like officially on the deed or the title or whatever it is. I don't own any property here, so I'm not an expert on that. And then I believe, yeah, like you said, once you're a citizen, then obviously you get a lot more rights here. Really, just to get, like, I'm a resident now. Residence was because they started deporting Americans. So I'm like, well, I don't want to get deported. I live here. So I just went and got my residency, flew up to the embassy in San Diego, presented all my bank account statements, documentation. There are, believe it or not, there are immigration requirements for Mexico, as with every other country in the world, minus the United States. So, I had to do all that, just took a weekend trip to San Diego, came down, went to the immigration office and got it printed within an hour. So I have their version of a social security number. So I can already get all the benefits. Like if I need to go to a doctor and I don't have money, which will never happen. I do preventive medicine more than anything, but they have like socialized medicine here. They have like some pension programs and stuff. So I could potentially do those, but like I'm at a point in my professional life or like financial life to where, those, I don't have to do that.
Nice. That's nice. Yeah, I was looking into that because I've always wanted to own property out there just because to me, it's just a slower life out there. So it's a
great place to live. I love living in Mexico. I am so much happier here. I'm so
people think
stressed
it's all cartels and and trafficking. It is really not that. I mean, there is that going on out there, but it's
where in my neighborhood, it's nicer than any nice neighborhood in any U.S. city. Like all the major U.S. cities are full of homelessness and drug addicts and fucking weirdos yelling at the air, and everything's kind of looks a little dingy. And then I walk around here and I forget I'm in Mexico sometimes until someone starts talking to me. I was like, Jared, Spanish mode.
You're just like talking about my city. I live in LA, so it's like that's all I see is homeless people naked on the highway, taking a dump or talking
Mexico
to the sign.
City is way nicer than LA. Yeah, I feel like I'm in a third world country when I go to parts of LA. I'm just like, what happened to my country? My dad's originally from there, so he tells me stories like back in the 60s and 70s. He's like, God, it was magical back in that era, growing up in that era, and now it's like it looks worse than Central America. Because Trump wasn't wrong. Like, I don't like to get political, but he wasn't wrong. They're not sending their best. There's a reason their government lets them go north because no one fucking wants them there.
They're not sending their best. No shit.
No.
All the major cities, man. All the major cities.
Yeah, I have friends here that are like senior vice presidents of international banks and politicians' kids or doctors and lawyers or engineers, and they're very bright people, and they go through the legal process, and it's a pain in the ass for them. And they'll ask me like, shit, would it be easier just to do green card fraud or like walk across the border? But these are educated people. Like when you're educated, you don't want to do that because that opens up a lot of liability in your life, no matter what country you go to or you're coming from or going to. But I know really, really high educated, high class people here. And they're like, fuck, it's really hard to immigrate there. And then you have Central Americans going up and, committing crime and filling up the prisons. And they're like, what the fuck? US, get your immigration down. And for me, like it wasn't a hard process for me because I hit all like the bare minimums and then some, but for a lot of Americans, like, hey, why don't you get residency? Like, oh, I don't meet the requirements. I'm like, well, shit, maybe you should have thought about that before you moved abroad. Like, have some money in the bank, guys, before you pack up your life and go to a different country. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it's funny because like we're like one of the only countries that have this like ridiculous border issue, but like in Australia, you can't just move there if you want to. Like, there's a lot of countries
move to Mexico if you want to.
Yeah, like you just can't just do what it's like. No, they protect their sovereignty, they protect their country for a reason, and they have laws in place for that. But over here, it's like, oh, if we do that, God forbid, we must be the most racist sons of bitches out there if we're gonna do that. Protect our property, protect our country. No, how dare you racist?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many countries out there that are like, if you don't look like me, we're checking your passport. That's like it's like 98% of the world is exactly like that. You don't look like you're French. Where are you from?
Yeah,
America. Where's your passport at? You're over visa. You're getting back on a plane, boy. Absolutely.
Yep. What are you guys' thoughts about like the shooting in Nashville? I was talking about that last night.
Yeah, that was the topic last night. That was a really good one.
Like, do you think there's suppression? I mean, I think the suppression is there, and I think that there's a reason why they're doing it, and it's intentional. But I haven't had a lot of people reply to it yet, so I really haven't had any discourse on it. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think they're conveniently spaced out.
Yeah.
Just as soon as we forget that the last one happened, a new one happens.
Do you think there's any like specific reason why they're like not being as sharing of the information as I mean, think about every other shooter that we've had, like shooting scenario. Within like 24 hours, we know who this person was, whether or not they have had mental health issues. We have, their background, their best friend has told their life story, and their mom is crying on TV about poor Timmy. He was just a troubled child as a youth. Like we have heard, like within like 48 hours, we hear all that. But for this one, you guys don't find it a little interesting that everything's kind of like mum? is the word
The
on
rug,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Are
think
we,
I think that the timing is definitely convenient, number one, but also the fact that the person was of alternative sexuality is another one, or alternative gender status was another one. How convenient.
I think that's the
That's
biggest
huge.
reason they're not talking about it.
Well, because like
Yeah,
I think that for me, it's like they want to keep it like mass shooters is a male trait. It's toxic masculinity, and that's the narrative we're running with. So
Yeah.
when this shooter comes out as a female, you notice they call her it's just the shooter. It's not the name of the individual or the sex of the individual. They're trying to keep it neutral and just say shooter because they don't want to point out that women aren't committing violent crimes too, apparently. Or they're
taking
capable of
testosterone.
Same with when it's a person of color too, though. They just say the shooter rather than identifying, and otherwise it's a white Christian right wing trait.
Yeah, this white Christian right wing extremist shoots up a predominantly African American church. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
we take L's every
it's the identity politics thing. Yeah.
I find it really fascinating though, because it's like, wow, like see how quickly things change when it's another gender or it's a somebody of an alternative lifestyle, and it's just like, why don't we just call it what it is? Like
I think it's a lot to do with the news source too. I don't think it's a secret that certain news outlets swing way to the left and some swing way to the right. If you're listening to some of the more fringe news outlets, I kind of prefer them. They kind of lean more towards the truth or swaying a bit more to the right, but they seem to actually be talking about that as opposed to some of the others.
This is where a stream needs to go to Rumble real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick, sirs.
Steve and I have been talking about that. Like, dude, all of a sudden I had because I mentioned I have like an inbound funnel kind of for my dating system, and I'm using my iPhone as my webcam, so I haven't checked Tinder like all day. So I have like 4 girls that popped right to my WhatsApp, like, "Hey, you ready for me to come over?" I'm like, half of them I don't even know, and some chicks like, "Hey, I met you at a nightclub on Saturday. Is this Julian?" I'm like, "No, I'm Jaron, and I wasn't there on Saturday. I was at home on Saturday, but." She lives in the neighborhood. I'm like, well, you're hot, so you might as well hang out. But, super funny how that works. Like I say, we start off the show talking about like when you create systems and structures in your life, then you don't have to pay a lot of mind or attention to them. It just kind of generates the results passively in the background. But all of a sudden, I'm hearing that deep, the notifications. I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting to that time of night, or people are getting off work, and they want to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy how like once you like put a system in place and it kind of runs itself,
Yeah,
100% of the time.
You just got to manage it, maintenance, do maintenance. That's about it. Like, but even when it comes to like working out, like once you put that system in place and you stick to it, it runs itself. You stay on top of your regimen. It just kind of.
I don't even think about it. I just kind of know what I need to do for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's weird. Like it's like brushing your teeth. You just end up in the gym. Like you don't actually like have to make an effort to go because it's just so your gym bag is right where it normally is. You pulled on one of the same 5 pairs of shorts. It's a 4-minute walk. You leave at just about the same time. It's just like you're avataring through your life. You're living your sim life for the first hour of the day.
Gym for me is an hour time block of my day. I can do it at any point in the day, but the whole process and procedure looks the same. And it's like, where do I have an hour free? Sometimes it's morning, usually it's middle day, sometimes it's before a stream, sometimes it's after. It's just whenever. But when I go into that mode, okay, gym time, boom, like the clock starts ticking within an hour. I'll get my shit ready, take my pre-workout, do whatever, leave the house, walk there. My gym's close, kind of like Steve's. And then I come home, and then it's usually within the hour. Shower up, get ready to go, and it's just built in. It's just like, Jaron, do you want to work out today? Yes, I work out every day. It's like 1 hour. That's all I need.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of bandwidth.
It's crazy that like people make something seem so difficult when it's so easy. It's like the most easiest things, like save money. Well, how do you save money? Stop spending it.
Don't run your debit card as much, nerd.
How do you get fit?
Mind-boggling.
Stop eating fat food. Like eat healthy. Make your own food. Stop eating out. Like that's it. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. And be consistent. Wow, but that's so difficult. Why?
The other thing is difficult is the habitual nature of it. Like people say, you need discipline. When you are like, if you work 12 hours a day for 5 years, you just work 12 hours a day. You don't have to, like, it's not a matter of working hard or not working hard. You just do it.
It's just what you do. Yeah, it's part of who
just,
you are.
and that's where people are like,
has to become.
I think a big part of it is like people finding the why, like why to actually do it.
It doesn't matter why when it's a habit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But
Once
people
first,
actually
to form the habit. Yeah, I agree with that. You have to.
People getting into these things.
Some motivation,
yeah,
discipline.
It's easy to save money by not spending it, but you need a reason not to spend it. You have to
because you want to save money.
For me, it's freedom
around that.
Well, it's because you want to live if you want to live a certain lifestyle, or you want to have a certain life towards the end of your years, the best way to do it is to either acquire as many resources as you can, and if the resources are scarce, then you need to be more conservative with the resources that you have. I mean, that's common sense, right? Like, you can't get rich by living on your credit card.
100%.
You can live like it for a while
until that bill comes.
Yeah. Yep. And you got to file bankruptcy for the second time in your life, and you're going into your 50s with a 570 and no credit because you're brand new, apparently.
Yep.
A newborn baby to the financial system.
You wonder why the girls don't like you? Well, because you look fat.
You're sloppy.
Yeah.
What else do you want to know? Like, you're fat. Well, it's their fault for not liking fat people? No.
If I were a chick, I wouldn't either. If I were a chick, I'd go for the fucking top shelf guy. Like, duh. I'm a guy and I go for the top shelf chicks.
We want good looking women, of course.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And it's like, guys need to realize that, like, although women have this thing called, body positivity, men, we do not qualify for body 100%. Positivity ever. Okay, there's something that you have a penis, you do not get to have that. I'm sorry, body positivity is not for you. You do not get to join that club.
Yeah, and the barometer is if you can see your dick when you pee or not.
Exactly. If you haven't seen it in a while,
you should probably go to the gym.
I was at that point at peak fatness, or I used to get in this in my head, like, oh no, do I have a tiny dick? And then you lose 100 pounds. You're like, no, I'm good. Like, there's just a lot of padding.
100%.
Yeah. Lose 100 pounds, guys. Your dick gets really big.
When I was competing, like back in like early or late 2018, I used to compete for like 5-6 years. I was sponsored by First Form Supplement Company and a couple other things.
Yeah, Andy Frisella's spot.
Yeah. That's the homie.
Yeah.
When I was competing, like before that, I was 285 pounds. So I was fat.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a sweet number for all of us.
I could not see my dick. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
And it's like Jared said it the most, like best is like, yeah, once you lose weight and you get in shape, you're like, your dick seems like 10 times longer. You're like, fuck, this thing grew. It's just like, no, just the fat's not there to block it anymore.
I've got big
dick
legs
pills are actually hydroxycut. Like, nobody knew that.
Like, yeah. Oh, I did the original Rip Fuel back in the day when that had ephedrine in it. Oh, that worked so good.
Oh my god,
I can see you sweating. I can see you just like pulling your fucking temples.
Sweated out the fat over the course of it was like 9 months. But the best performing video on my channel is the first video I ever did, and it was like a comprehensive guide on how to procure legal ephedrine in the U.S. and how to dose it correctly, and that's still like my top performer to today. So yeah, definitely did the Rip Fuel. It's funny with the dick thing. I've got huge thighs too, so I got like a 30-inch waist. And my thighs will fluctuate between like 26 or 28 inches. So like I'll look in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, no, am I rocking it? But like you remove the legs and you just isolate that area. You're like, oh yeah, no, I'm good.
Have you noticed like
objects in the mirror are bigger than they are, closer than they appear?
Oh, dude, chips here are tiny anyways. So like I'm a fucking monster compared to them.
You notice like bodybuilders on stage, like when they're in their trunks, right? Like they look like they're like the smallest, like, size compared to everything else because their legs are huge, their body's huge.
Yeah, they're massive.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, you're right. Remove the legs, and then you look great.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Like, the bodybuilding sport is crazy. It's gone bad in my opinion. Like, just
they're too excessive. I like the golden area. Like,
so
I
competed in the classic physique, and that was like the newest division that came out at that time.
Yeah,
and that was like the old 1970s bodybuilder look, like the Arnold look. These new bodybuilders, man, like they are on some gear, and I'm just like, wow, the stuff that they run. Like, I'm not going for it.
I trained under one in California in COVID. A lot of them, they probably did this in LA too. I was in San Diego. They bought all, like a lot of gyms just failed. So they bought all the gear and did like in their detached garage, or they don't have basements really in San Diego, but I trained in a detached garage and old school type setup. And he trained me and built my physique like a golden era type guy. And it's funny, like it's funny. A lot of times people mean things they say as insults, but I take them as compliments. They're like, "Oh bro, you look like a 1960s bodybuilder." I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going for. That's exactly what I want.
Exactly it. The
most
my
brother
for ever.
Me and my brother were at Disneyland a few years ago, and this lady was like, "These two behemoths in front of me," and we looked back, we're like, "Thank you."
Oh, but my coach at the time, and this was off season, he was taking like 300 or 3,000 milligrams of gear, and I'm just like, Jesus, like. I've done a few cycles in my life when I was younger and playing ball here in Mexico because everyone did steroids. The coaches encourage you to because it's fucking Mexico and no one cares. That the U.S. is not free, by the way, guys. There's not as much liberty there as there are most other countries. But I digress. That's another show topic for another day. But he was taking like 3,000 milligrams a week, and at peak, I think I was taking like 500 milligrams of just like the Sustanon 250, the Ready Jacks. That's what everyone did in Mexico. I got humongous. I'm on TRT now, and I usually run it a little lower. If I go up to like 200 milligrams and want to put on some mass, I look really good really fast. I can really pack on the mass. So like this guy, I couldn't imagine 3,000 milligrams a month, and he was a wounded war vet. He's missing a kidney. I'm like, hey bro, my dad was my dad grew up in LA, so he was a bodybuilder back in the golden era. Never famous or anything, but he ran some gear and he drank back in the day, and he's got kidney problems. And I told my coach, I'm like, bro, you can't be running all that fucking gear like with one kidney. You're not going to make it to 50, man. And I had that conversation with a lot of people. Like we did a Fat to Fit stream the other day, and Steve was getting up there in weight, and he's been a buddy of mine for more than a decade. I'm like, bro, you're gonna die. Like you can't have all that body fat on you and be drinking and be stressed out and be chewing and smoking all the time. Like you're not gonna make it to your mid-30s, bro.
No, so I
think they should have
around. I run it.
Do you think they should have an Olympics where people can just gear right the hell up and just turn into unnatural behemoths?
I like gear in the MLB. I like gear in football because it's entertainment.
It doesn't bother me like if people are using gear. Like I use gear. I still run gear. Although I'm not competing anymore, I still run gear. I mean, I run when I'm on a cycle. I'm running like either test, and I'm running trend, and then that's it. Like that's pretty much all I would run. Every once in a while, I'll run a mass run something, but like for the most part, I stay on gear. And it's fine.
I do test HGH.
Getting your blood work done, stay on the top of your blood levels. Because I mean, like I'm almost 40, and I know that when I'm not on test, my levels are low, And so I'm like, hey, if I want to have that drive, if I want to stay motivated, and hey, I got to stay on it. And testosterone is what you need. Like testosterone is not bad. The stuff people try to like make it seem like it's bad. It's not bad. It's when you abuse anything. Anything could be abused, and that will be bad. But in itself, it's not bad.
Yeah, I agree. Like I do. Like every guy has different goals when it comes to this, but I do like the minimally viable dose approach to it. So I run my TRT. I keep it in range. Sometimes it goes a little higher, but it's never out of range. Sometimes like guys hit me up on Rich Cooper's comments like, oh, it's because Jaron's on TRT. That's why he's so big, or that's how he can get big and lean. I'm like, no, when you get leaner, you actually back off the TRT because you don't want the bloat or the water retention. And then I run like a female bodybuilder dose, 30 milligrams of Anavar. They sell them in 10 milligram pills here in Mexico. Once every 8 hours works best for me rather than doing one dose a day. I think it has like an 8-hour half-life. So I do really minimal shit, but if I do Anavar for 2-3 weeks out before going to Cancun or Miami, I've got a 6-pack and I'm looking pretty good, and doesn't really tax my system. I feel really good every day.
Oh yeah, no, that's the great thing about being in Mexico for you. Like I know plenty of guys that go over there and try to get gear and try to bring it back. It's like I'm like, man, I'm sorry, I just would not want that anxiety level. Like. Yeah. I think of like Johnny Cash, I don't like coming off the plane with like the guitar full of like cocaine or something. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
I used to cross stuff, across the border, but this is actually an offline topic. But I have ways of getting stuff there now. Let's just say that if anyone ever needs anything within my inner circle, I won't send shit to strangers. But
oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it was the anxiety. You'd be on a plane and you're like, fuck. Or like last time I went to Miami, a couple of the guys were like, hey, I want to try some mushrooms. And down here, like it's the treatment for depression, anxiety, or whatever. If you go to like psychologists, I belong to like some cannabis clubs. So they just sell it to you, but like they're little pills like this. You just put in a like regular pill bottle and take it with you. But I was going to Miami, so I had like the full white linen suit on, like pink shirt, dress Mr. Miami. When I dress like this, no one ever pulls me out of line. I never get sent to secondary, never get searched. But I looked like Mr. Miami, and they're like, "Where are you going? Where's your final destination?" Miami. Like, yeah, you're going over here. And they took me like the back room and just searched me up and down, pulled all the shit out of my suitcase. Like when they had the pill bottle in their hand, I'm like, "Fuck, I'm going to Mexican jail." And then they put it back in. They're like, "Yeah, pack this bag up. We're gonna look through your other stuff." I'm like, "Oh yeah, tear that shit apart."
That is wild. I did not know that.
Left over coming back from Miami, and I just threw it away. I'm just like, yeah, I'm never gonna do that again, because it was the anxiety that you just don't want to deal with.
Yeah, no, that sounds wild. I did not know they use mushrooms to treat depression out there. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a 28-day treatment. 0.25 grams is what they give you. I told
It's
Steve
so
for whatever reason, I woke up with a lot of anxiety today, and I used to have it really bad, but I never get it anymore. I was like, Jared, what the fuck's wrong with you? So I popped one of these guys with my morning coffee and went and had a workout and came back like, all right, I'm feeling good now. It just slices through it. It just eliminates it completely.
Yeah, if I'm ever stuck on like a creative issue, I'll take a quarter of a gram. I'll take a quarter of a gram and then drink 100 milligrams of caffeine and turn some music on. And within an hour, I'm just flowing, just perfect. It's not enough to really fuck with your brain at all, except for, it just puts you in a happy state. I would suggest anybody who's fundamentally angry to find some of this shit. It's so good. And it kind of, for me, it gives me a different level of focus too. It's like, it's not ADHD, like neurotic focus or whatever that word is, but it's like if my phone rings, I don't really pay attention to it. I'm not caught with the notification, or I'm not like, I'm actually singing. I'm actually listening to the song that I'm, that's in my ears, and like understanding new words, and then I write better, and then creative is a little bit better. So yeah. It's a lot of the guys from the weed industry are really getting into like mushrooms in that regard. They're trying out different levels of microdosing.
Well, even weed, people get on me for the weed topic. I'm like, but I don't use it to get high. I use it as a productivity tool. And I see even, I've seen studies like NFL players, like, oh, the bulk majority of them use weed. And back before I had ever smoked, I'm like, how does that make you productive? And now I'm like, no, I get it. Because there's certain strains and certain doses and certain methods of taking it into your system that, yeah, it dials you the fuck in. And it gets rid of that performance anxiety or the stress or whatever. You're just grooving. You're just in the zone. So
and this
see it as a performance tool.
Yeah, and this is stuff that people used alcohol for the longest time, right? Like me, even
alcohol wrecks you. Oh my god.
Yeah, it wrecks you. But like when you're in a flow and you're like working by myself and I have a 12-hour day and I'm just like, oh, I'll have a few drinks, not a big deal, whatever. And that's kind of how the process started for 3 years nearly straight. So when I
drank through my entire master's degree, like, oh, I have to do a research paper and
you
throwing them back and
3 or 4 drinks back and you just go to work, because it kind of numbs everything around you. It's like everything is just slightly fuzzy, right? Everything's slightly fuzzy, so you can kind of focus on what you're doing, and then you want to get it done faster because you don't want to do it anymore. That's where I'm at. Like
I found the same thing, microdosing too. Like,
yeah,
it helps you focus on what you're doing just a little bit at a time, and honestly get a little bit of a head spin, kind
slight head spin, yeah, maybe a little,
like feeling good subtle. Anyways, just a bit of a buzz, but like it's a good focus in. It just like everything vibes. You just feel like you're rocking, and you can actually dial right into what the heck you're doing if you have a hard time focusing otherwise.
Yeah, and if you have to get on the phone with your client or something, you're not a fucking basket case. Like, you're not. You're just cool. You're like, oh, you got a problem. Okay, yeah, I totally understand. Got it. Yep. And you fix the problem. You don't even realize you fixed it.
All right, cool. Yep.
Yeah. No problem. I got you.
We're in some metaphorical, rough patch of water. We'll go ahead and navigate right through it or go around it. Let's come up with a solution. But yeah, like me years ago, not doing anything or not trying to optimize that area of my life, I'd be like, oh my god, what the hell's going on here? Now it's like I said, my goal is like, just be smooth operator, just like, it is what it is, shit comes up, we'll take care of it.
Do you guys think like guys should probably be looking into that now? I mean, it seems like guys are having a harder time regulating emotions, so it seems like it kind of that kind of helps you regulate your emotions and help you stay focused. Do you think it's something that
depends?
Yeah, it depends on the
I
person.
mean, I do. I think
if you're boozing or you're pill popping, then yes, I definitely recommend it. I've gotten quite a
Yeah.
few guys off of the bottle and off of like the prescription pills, and you know, ideal. Like again, a lot of red pill guys come to the space like, oh, you should have like the Christian ideal, which I've done that before. I've practiced as a Christian for 30 days at a time, and it does do something to you. But for me personally, it's not sustainable. I'm kind of wired a certain way. So yeah, using substances to dial myself in or ground myself or go a little ethereal sometimes if I want to like explore the astral plane or shit like that. Like not all guys want to do that, and I totally get it. But a lot of guys get on me for those topics. Like, hey, yeah, the ideal is to do nothing. But if you're like balls deep into alcoholism and you're barely hanging on, then yeah, try the mushrooms. Do it for 28 days. It'll kind of smooth out the edges as you're coming down. And if you want to switch to pot, then it's better than you dying prematurely from whatever the reason is that you're drinking.
True. Yeah, when I was going through the alcohol issues, what I would do is I would take 2 of my quarter-gram pills and I would put my headphones in and I would go for a walk and I would walk until everything was wonderful.
Yeah, you look at the squirrels, you're like, oh my God, this is a miraculous creature. Like what a grand universe we live in. This is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, walking
being depressed and
barefoot and being a fucking weirdo about it. Dude, I've done that before. Just half a gram of mushrooms and like you're like picking up grasshoppers and shit and being just a weirdo about it. And I say a weirdo, but like that's the type of shit like we get into this society the way that it is and we forget that there's walk out your fucking front door and look down. There's an entirely different world in your front yard and you don't even realize it. And that's what mushrooms taught me. I walk outside and there's a mouse chewing on a piece of grass or some shit. You're like, whoa, that is crazy. First off, why is there a mouse in my front yard? Where'd that come from?
Mushrooms are like being a kid again. Like when I watch my nieces and nephews when they experience something for the first time. I always bring them cool shit home from Mexico. It's something they've never seen before because you know they're little guys, little girl and guy. And they're like, whoa, and their face lights up. That's how I feel when I'm on mushrooms. I'm like, oh my God, that bird's awesome.
Dude, yeah.
Even with work too, like you can see different ways to attack a thing or, you know, I do electrical, for example. So I see everything in a different light, a different way to do things or something I hadn't thought of before. It's kind of mind opening and helps you focus at the same time too.
It is.
This morning, I looked forward to doing things I've been putting off. Like I knew I need to reach out to other collaborators or content creators. I knew that I need to follow up on leads. I knew I need to look at my analytics and figure out why my fucking videos are getting throttled right at the point they're about to go viral. Then YouTube just caps them. So like, all right, like it's stuff that I've been putting off for not forever, less than a week, but it's stuff I need to get done. And I felt kind of anxious. I'm like, well, fuck, I just want to kill the anxiety because I got to get to my day. Went away within an hour, and then all of a sudden I'm like, all right. And then I looked forward to doing the stuff I've been putting off. And you knock it off pretty quick once you get started.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, it's fascinating. Something I have never looked into. I had one mushroom experience, and this was like when I was a teenager. And it was like I ate a real mushroom and it wasn't microdose or anything. And I was talking to a cat naked in my living room for a really long time. And so ever since then, like when I hear the mushroom, I'm like, no more cats, no more being naked as a teenager. It's the first thought I see. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that.
Only microdose. If I'm doing like a real trip or like a hero's journey, there's like a shaman or a spiritual healer or someone that's like very well attuned to the power of the medicine, and they make sure you get what you need out of it. And I fast and cut everything out and like really prepare. I take that shit seriously. But for microdosing, like you don't see any visuals, you don't hallucinate, like you just feel kind of just a little lighter.
Yeah, it's
not like everybody's not going to have the experience that I had. If you do it right.
We hope not. There's not enough cats in the world for that kind of trauma, right?
Yeah. What would Freud say about that?
Exactly.
But no, it's about like, you know, when you get into a social situation and you finish your first stiff drink, that's how you kind of mentally feel, where you're energized, but your creative is like you just listen to your favorite song and you're kind of in that vibe, like where you're kind of doing your own thing and you don't give a fuck who's around, and you're just like Jaron said, he's like, oh, that's a pretty cool bird, you know, whatever. And that's what I liken it to. I liken it to a combination of being a 5-year-old, being in that one drink stage.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like you're experiencing the world for the first time from those eyes, that frame of just wonderment. Like, wow, I've never quite seen anything like it. Although, and they're little things, yeah, like the bird or the squirrels climbing up the trees or whatever. Like you walk past that shit every day, but you've got other things in your head, you don't notice that, and then you take what is it saying? Like take some time to smell the coffee. Like you really do that. You smell your coffee, like, oh whoa, and you appreciate like the people who farmed it and the people
Dude,
that
what if the entire world acted like
transported
that?
it.
Like, what if
We'd
the
have
entire world looked at the world that exact same way? How fucking
Everyone would
awesome
be
would
so
this
much
place be?
happier.
like all gods are the same thing, like those types of things. Yeah, those are mushroom thoughts. We'd have world peace, which is I think why they've been outlawed.
I think that's why we have news stations.
It doesn't serve the
Yeah.
powers that be.
War is a business, my friends. War is
Oh,
just
yeah.
as much a business as anything else. We are not fighting people for our health. I can tell you that.
I started my career in defense, and I knew coming out of college, like I was making more than most of my friends' families, like combined income. I'm just like, yeah, I'm overpaid. This is what a defense contractor looks like.
This is
I'm going to clear out
politics
some
and
of
a
these
fight for
comments and
resources.
then maybe start wrapping this up here in a minute because
Sure.
I did want to pop the Bentley show for a second. So we got a bunch from Chris. Chris, next time we do a live stream, feel free to come up here, man. Your opinion is always welcome here. So in my opinion, there you go. In my opinion, too many people get in a dick swinging competition and think they have something to prove to their leader. I agree with that. I started 11 years ago with under $300. Yeah, we've heard Chris's story many times. So again, guys, get into those private groups if you're interested. Hit me up on Instagram. You'll see it here on the screen here in a minute. That's how you reach me. Glenn, you're the smartest dude I've heard in this space in ages. Yeah, I liked you a lot too because I'm kind of having an identity crisis. Like, am I red pill? Am I the manosphere? Am I this or am I that? And you read the comments, although people tell you not to. But you want to kind of gauge your audience. I'm like, I don't know if I fit the definition of like a red pill dude. I've just built a life for myself that's really enjoyable, and I kind of want to share with guys how
don't care
to do that.
Like,
yeah,
really,
like,
exactly
your opinion last night was quite refreshing. I'm like, yeah, you just look at things rationally, and that's kind of what I try to do.
It's just like look at it as it is. Like, you take the information for what it is, and you just process it through your worldview. I don't need to say, oh, I'm red pilled or I'm this or I'm that. This is how I see it. And if I align with certain, what certain people believe in, cool. But don't put me in a box. I'm not going to be put in a box. Nobody wants to be defined as a box. Like people want to be associated with cliques because that's what chicks do. Girls like to be part of like the hive mind. So I have that same mind that everybody else has in this group. Like, no, I don't. I disagree with a lot of people, and I agree with some weird people too. Just be you. Like, like don't be put in a box. Don't let people define you. And this is who you are. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That was our stream last night. That was
I pretty much preached that entirely, 100%.
We did the Sigma male topic, which a lot of guys I hang out with like, oh, it's a bullshit term. I'm like, yeah, but for guys that really don't know, that don't have their identity formed yet, like they do put themselves in these boxes, and then from there they can kind of grow. Or it's a lot of overlap in a lot of these things.
They're just container words.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fantastic way to put it. I'm gonna start.
I don't even know what that means, but I guess I know what it means now.
It makes sense. Never heard it before, but it makes complete sense.
Absolutely.
This is a great show. Glad I came out from under my rock. New to the country, gentlemen. All you hear are coyotes and horses. Yeah, Steve talks about that. So I left the country. Steve went like to the country, or did kind of the same model or similar model I did, but he stayed within the U.S. So you can definitely do that, guys. There are
it was more of a test than a desire. Just saying. I wanted to see if we could stay under 2K inside the United States and live a normal life, and we're succeeding.
You can do it. Don't live in California. It's a little expensive.
Don't live in California.
New York. Nope. Miami's getting up there too. God, Miami's expensive.
Dude, my Arizona budget is like $12,000. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Arizona's getting up there too. Yeah,
Arizona's bad. Arizona's
$2,700 for the apartment I want. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you want to live like that, go to Kansas. Go to
that's where I live. Yeah.
I was in where was I? What is it called?
Wichita.
Wichita. Yeah, I was in Wichita for like 3-4 months flipping a house up there.
Yep. That's where I live.
This past summer, yeah. I was living off of well, then you probably know the area. What was that damn street called? It was there's Harry. Harry was a main street. And what was the other one? Is it
you're close to
Maine?
downtown.
Maine and Harry. I think it was like the southwest side, right? Like right where the river was.
I live on the northwest side.
Okay,
towards
yeah.
Towards
I was out there. You went to the Genesis gym and stuff like that.
Yeah, Genesis. You probably went to the same one I go to. It's like a mile from my house. Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe a mile and a half.
Yeah, but if you guys want to live under 2K, go to Wichita.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
I mean,
for sure.
The house that we sold, like, if I would have sold that kind of house out here in California, I would have probably made like $400,000-$500,000.
Yep.
Out there, $100,000.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I live in the country in Ontario. I love it. It's sweet.
Liberals buying votes in Canada. Not a lot of liberals out in the country in Canada. Well, I grew up in Washington State, so we'd go to BC to like buy bud or beer back when it was 19 years old to buy beer there. Or like we'd hang out with like the Canadian country bumpkins, and interesting breed of people. They're not quite like U.S. country people, but not like your Canadian city people either. So not bad people, just a unique bunch, especially like your backwoods BC people. They're like super country liberals. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I lived in Bremerton, Washington too, so I used to go up to Canada a lot. That was crazy.
Yeah. I graduated high school over in Spanaway.
Okay,
well, that's right. Yeah, you lived on the west side for a bit.
Yeah.
See, horrible that happened at all as a dad. I can't imagine is great. However, to see that POS end up as a bloody pretzel. So yeah, we're just catching up. That's for the shooting that happened recently. Bingo, man, this is a refreshing show tonight. Yeah, thanks. That's wild. Damn. Yeah, Chris, get up here next time and join the conversation. My one thing, I'm still on SSRI. I've been trying to kick it the past month. Sucks ass. Yeah, we did talk about that in the private groups. And guys, like again, if you want to get in the private communities, I'll do a pitch here in a minute as we wrap it up. But we get into some deep and heavy topics, and a lot of guys are getting helped out. You know, we've had a lot of weight loss. We've had a lot of addictions dropped. We've had a lot of new girls, healthy, happy relationships. However you want to structure that in your life, those models put into place. So that's where the work's done. That's why I fly and build planes, get in the zone and tune the world out. Yep. I do that with my music. I recommend all guys do that. Some sort of creative endeavor. It doesn't have to be a classic art. Not all guys are wired that way. If you want to do ironworking, if you want to do whatever it is, just visualize something and put it out into the physical world. And that I don't know what it is. It just does something to you as a guy. And it's something that I can't give up. In fact, that's probably that thought that went through my head today. I was like, why have I had anxiety? I was like, shit, I haven't played music in a week. That's why. Like, I need to do that. That keeps me level.
Yeah, I play my
creativity
bass,
and flow
every
state
once in a
really
while.
helps.
Yeah, I play the bass guitar, and I pick up the bass like it's right here, and I'll just grab it. And
I started with bass because it's like you always have a spot in the band. Like every band needs a bassist or like a drummer who's not a douche. Like
right.
In high school, like these garage bands, like I'll play the bass and like I play rhythm guitar and I sing now, but you know, if anyone wants to jam me, I'll pick up a bass and lay down a bass line. So do whatever that is for you. Yeah, I definitely recommend guys do something. Do you guys want to go around the horn, maybe start wrapping this up, let people know who you are, where they can find you, what you're up to, if you have anything to pitch to them, and we can start bringing this home.
Yeah, you can just find me at Best on the Bold on IG. That's it. I don't have any more of a closer than that.
You can find me at Glenn_Lawrence_presents on IG. Hit me up. I do consultations. But you know, if you guys just want some content, some triggering nonsense, hey, I'll do that too. You know, like pissing people off. So
I'm Jake. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. You're not
from State Farms, are you? You don't work for State Farms?
Yeah.
Is
this Jake from State Farm?
Are you wearing khakis?
Wearing khakis.
Yeah. Well, he's a dude, so
He looks like the kind of guy that doesn't wear pants on a podcast.
That's
you won't know.
I've got sweatpants on.
He's holding the computer above his waist, like, oh fuck.
Don't drop the camera. Don't drop the camera.
Yeah, that'll really get me that'll get me banned, not shadow banned.
No doubt.
All right, guys. You guys all know me. My name is Jaron. Find me on Instagram at Jaron Scott. If you're interested in joining the top 10% men's group, it's an extension or feeder group for Rich Cooper's top 1% group. It's myself and 4 other admins from his generals level. So we have a breadth of knowledge. We can help you with all sorts of stuff. And if we can't, which rarely happens, we can put you in contact with someone that can. That's where you get started. That's where like the deep work starts getting done. Jake is in the top 1% group. So if you don't have to scratch for that price point, that's fine. It's $997 US lifetime membership for the top 10% group. And once you get there, we'd love to have you in the higher level groups. But maybe not all guys want to do that, so that's completely fine. But if you want like a tribe of like-minded men, a brotherhood, or the pitch I use is, if you're a guy looking to level up on all areas of love and life by building a life worth living and loving, well, that's where we do the work. That's the top 10% men's group. Again, $997 lifetime membership. You can go to the paywall right in the description down below this video, or hit me up Instagram at Jaron Scott if you have any more questions. I want to thank everyone on the panel for stopping by, and guys in the audience, you're always welcome on these shows. Steve and I are going to be doing live streams about the same time for the rest of this week, and then we'll figure out what we want to do cadence-wise there. And if you haven't done so, please like the video. It's free. Subscribe to the channel if you're getting value out of this. Ring the notification bell and enable notifications. My content is not getting pushed in front of my audience. I can view the back end metrics. It should be, but it is not. So that's how you get around that. Again, follow me on Instagram too. I also have a branded account, so there's a link for that in my Instagram. Go to that, and then you'll see all those show topics. I post those in stories. So make sure you don't miss any of these live streams if you want to participate. Leave any comments down below if you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything that you agree or disagree with. That's how we get the engagement going, and that helps the algorithms also. And then one that guys often forget, share with your friends. If you enjoy what we're doing, you know, we're all relatively new in the content space, the guys up here, and you know, we're putting out a lot of value. We're not a lot of value for free. So if you want to support us, you know, don't have to scratch, that's completely fine. Everyone's at different levels in their journey in different areas of their lives, but you know, share with a friend, like, hey, you know, these guys are getting on these panels or having some interesting talks, and get the good word out. And that being said, unless you guys have anything else to add, I'll bring it on home. So I want to thank you for stopping on by, and until next time, we shall bid you all farewell.